Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. We got a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. Obviously, we're going to be previewing the Clemson versus Texas matchup. Our Clemson Tigers traveled down to Austin, Texas, DKR Stadium, 4 p.m. kick. To take on the Texas Longhorns, homecoming for Cade Klubnik. We're going to break down that with a couple gentlemen from the Voice of College Football Texas channel. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then this is a super special episode for another reason tonight. This is the 100th episode of the All In Show. Me and Jordan have been right here for each and every one of those. So that's super special. Thank you guys all for showing up to hang out with us and celebrate that milestone for the Clemson channel right here on the Voice of College Football. But before we get into tonight's show, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. It would really help us out. We're on the road to 6,000 subscribers. We're about halfway between 5,000 and 6,000. So your help with that would be greatly appreciated. This is a live video, so go ahead and hit that like button while you're in here. That helps us out as well. Share the video. And then last but certainly not least, we got the Super Chat feature available for you guys. If you want to support what me and Jordan do here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football, and more specifically the All In Show, hit that Super Chat feature. It'll support what we do here. Not only that, it will ensure that your comment and or question attached to that gets read and responded to during this live episode. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, go ahead and do that. And with that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up, Jordan? How you doing tonight?
Awesome, man. Just super excited for this episode. You really couldn't have lined it up any more perfect because, we have a college football playoff game to talk about right now.
Absolutely.
And it's episode 100. Seriously, it's been awesome doing this show this is our third season doing it now.
Yes.
And I think we got to episode 100. We made it, brother.
We made it.
That's it's really special. So just excited to get into it, man. And we got a lot to talk about. This is a important matchup for a lot of reasons. So I'm just ready to get into it.
Yeah, man, absolutely fantastic. Can't believe we made it to 100 episodes. The odds of it lining up with Clemson's return to the college football playoff after a 3-year hiatus, if you will, taking on a Texas team who we've never played in the history of the program, lining up with the 100th episode. It's just super cool, man. The stars aligned for us, if you will. Shout out to all of our supporters out there, all of our moderators in the chat section, all of the people that come each and every week to listen to what a couple fans of college football have to say about the Clemson Tigers and college football as a whole. But we got a couple special guys to welcome to the show tonight. Some Texas guys from the Voice of College Football Texas channel. So let's welcome Gerald to the show and Matthew to the show as well. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming to talk a little Texas Clemson breakdown with us, and also being here to celebrate the 100th episode of the All In Show, man. Appreciate you guys being here.
If I had known, I'd have brought a cake or something.
I could have brought some whiskey or cigars. How about that?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm down for some whiskey, man. Actually, I got some downstairs. Might just go ahead and pop it open. But no, seriously, thank you guys so much. And I want to start it off. I kind of want to both of you can just kind of give your thoughts on Texas's season to this point. What you've thought about this team, before we get into the X's and O's and the matchups and stuff. Just kind of how Texas got here and what your thoughts are with the direction of the program. And, obviously Steve Sarkisian has had this program on a very steady ascension over the last few seasons. Just kind of give us your thoughts on kind of this season for Texas and, just how things have played out.
I'll let Gerald hit on that one first.
Yeah. The season overall, man, it's a weird like exercise of holding multiple thoughts in your head at the same time. Like on any preview I did, I was like, I would be so happy if Texas went like 10-2 or 11-1 on this schedule and made it to the SEC championship game. But watching that SEC championship game and watching the first game against Georgia, it feels like there was a missed opportunity there. It's like there's that weird, like you have to be able to think with both sides of your brain on that a little bit, where it's like, yes, met expectations, SEC championship game, first season in the SEC, like all of the narratives about Texas not being SEC ready turned out not to be true, but also like it could have been better, and that's a weird world to live in. I think, like you said, Steve Sarkisian has had this program on a good trajectory, and I think he came in with a really clear vision of what it was going to take. You know, there's something to be said about learning from Nick Saban, who's hard to argue he's not one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, right? So, like, for that, he came in and he knew what needed to change about the program. He actually took some shots at Tom Herman's roster construction in one of his earliest press conferences. We're talking about, I've never seen a roster with more tight ends than offensive linemen. Came in first year in the full recruiting cycle, targeted the trenches. I think more than half of the players were offensive and defensive linemen in his first full cycle, and that's really how they've built it. I'm an old school guy. I came up playing football on the offensive line, and football is won or lost in the trenches, and that's how they built the team from the inside out. And I think that's why Texas has been successful.
Yeah, and I think it's funny Gerald said that about the two different thoughts, because I said that before he became my co-host. Like post-game shows, I'd always say, I watch this team and I'm disappointed at what I see because I know the potential that they have. And it's funny because I predicted this team to go 11-1 in the regular season, go to the SEC championship game, and lose the SEC championship game. So I predicted the season correctly. I didn't predict the opponent we'd lose to in the SEC championship game. I thought we'd lose to Alabama. But then you watch this team, and they're just leaving so much meat on the bone. And that's what's so disappointing. Like the red zone offense, the turnovers, the penalties, all at critical moments in the game. And we're not finishing teams off when we should. And that's the problem of having those two separate thoughts of like, oh, this team is where I expected them to be, but there's so much meat left onto the bone that they could be even better than I expected them to be. So it's very frustrating. And then just like he hit on, that 2022 class where we bring in one of the best offensive line classes out of high school recruiting in the history of high school recruiting. I mean, most of those guys have started. We still have all those guys on a roster other than one, I believe, and you'll see even more next year play for us. So that class has been instrumental in what Steve Sarkisian has built, and he continues to build in the trenches, and that's how you win football games. Like he said, I think when he took over, we had 17 wide receivers on scholarship. That's an absurd amount. No one needs 17 wide receivers on scholarship. And we only had like 9 or 10 offensive linemen. It's a complete 180 there, and he's done a fantastic job of flipping that roster, and he's gotten us on the path that Texas hasn't been on since the Mac Brown years.
Well, and you hit on both of you. I think the common theme here is that, Texas really emphasized when Steve Sarkisian came in, he said, we're going to be a team that's going to win up front on both sides of the football. And when I watch this football team, it's evident in just kind of how much they've grown from when he first took the job, and just the talent acquisition obviously has been at an extremely high level, but the coaching, they are extremely well coached on both sides of the ball up front. And that's going to be such a really, really important, matchup for Clemson, in this game. And it's going to be a very tall task, matching up with them. So, it really is kind of how you want to build a national championship, contending program in this day and age, especially, everybody's focused on the quarterbacks and the wide receivers, and Texas certainly has those too. But, if you're not winning up front, it's hard to do anything at all. So on either side of the football. And, from the Clemson, side of things, just to kind of give our thought, and Gene, I'll let you go too. I kind of echo a lot of the sentiments that you guys as Texas fans feel, but not in the terms of how the season has gone. Certainly Clemson has lost 3 games. They, squeaked into the ACC championship game and have found themselves as the last team in the college football playoff. So very, different seasons overall, but in the sense that you felt like this team probably should have been better than it was. and against the best competition they played, they certainly didn't rise to the occasion. And that's with Clemson. I think the narrative around the program and Dabo Swinney and how he's gone about running the program and how he's gone about constructing his roster has taken a lot of hits over the last few seasons. Obviously, you haven't made the college football playoff since 2020. So this is a nice, return. But even in making the college football playoff, you lost 3 games. You got blown out by Georgia. Louisville came into your house and did something that teams just don't do in Death Valley. And of course, you lose to your rival, your most bitter, hated rival at the end of the season. And despite all of that, you get one more lifeline. Thank you, Mario Cristobal. And you find yourself after a thrilling victory over SMU, you have a shot. So, with Clemson, I think, Gina, and I'm sure you and I have, feel the same way about this team. It's you're happy for the players that they're getting this opportunity, with everything that has transpired over the course of the season. But you feel like there's still a lot of things that aren't, up to par and where they need to be in order for this program to get back to, truly competing for national championships.
Yeah, man. Look, it's funny because you guys talking about Texas football kind of sound somewhat similar in certain senses of what me and Jordan have said about our Clemson Tigers all season, and the fact that it's, I guess, the end result is kind of what you saw. Like when me and Jordan, you rewind all the way back to fall camp for the Clemson Tigers. And when we were talking preview season and where we saw this Clemson Tiger team being and, kind of what a successful season would look like to us was, ultimately winning the ACC championship game and getting back into the playoff, which is oddly enough what this Clemson team did, but in probably the most unorthodox way that they possibly could have, with the blunder that Jordan mentioned in Louisville, the fourth quarter just meltdown that happened in South Carolina. I mean, you lost 2 home games, and I don't know how much you guys know about Clemson, but that is a rarity in Clemson, South Carolina, for them to drop even 1 home game a season, much less 2. I don't know how far you got to go back in order to see Clemson lose 2 home games in the same season, but it's quite a ways to go back. But that happened this season. But in the same breath, you get a second, you get a second and third, I guess it would be a third chance. You go on, you beat SMU by a last-second walk-off 62-yard field goal. And I don't know how much you guys have followed Clemson this season, but if you follow them closely in any sense, our kicking game has been abysmal for the entire season. Not because of our field goal kicker, but because of our protection of the field goal kicker. We've had multiple kicks blocked all season long, and for the ACC championship game to end in a 62-yard walk-off field goal is just one of the most improbable things that I can think of. But ultimately, it springboards Clemson into this matchup that we're going to talk about tonight, taking on the Texas Longhorns in Austin, Texas, for the first round of the inaugural 12-team playoff. I'm excited, man. We can talk about our teams and some of the disappointing moments that have happened throughout the season for both of us. I'm sure you guys can point to multiple times this season that Texas has kind of let you guys down. Same thing with us with Clemson. But at the end of the day, as much as I was, as a college football fan, just being transparent, resistant of the 12-team playoffs, I love this first round of the 12-team playoff. You're talking home games at Texas, at Penn State, at Ohio State, and Notre Dame. 4 of the most iconic venues in college football, and you have brands like Clemson and Oregon and all these other teams taking on those big brands in their home stadiums. I think the 12-team playoff is, as far as the first round, ended up pretty well. I mean, I know a lot of people got complaints about it, but I mean, Texas and Clemson, that's two massive brands in the sport of college football, and it's awesome that it's happening on a college football campus at the disadvantage of my Clemson Tigers because it's in Austin, Texas. But I'm excited for it, man, and I can't wait to get into the game.
It's going to be a blast. Like this is what they sold. Like the big advantage of the 12-team playoff was one, there are more late season games that matter to the national championship picture, and two, like you're going to see Penn State hosting a game in December. You're going to see a team that's never played another blue blood team going on the road in the home matchups. And like it's just going to be it's an incredible event. If any of your viewers, you all have a chance to go to Austin, game day experience there has been incredible. They've amped it up quite a bit. You can do your whole tailgate situation, like your whole pregame. They've got food trucks and stuff for the kids and a concert all before the games. Like it's going to be incredible. So yeah, this is what it's all about, man. It's going to be fun.
All right, I think we did enough preamble as far as this matchup. Let's just kind of dive into it. Obviously, Clemson coming in at 10-3, ACC champs, all the like. Texas coming in at 11-2, SEC runner up, and the first or the fifth seed, I guess. I want to start with, and we kind of talked about it at the beginning. I want to start on the offensive side of the football for Texas, and kind of what have you guys noticed about this group? Because in a lot of ways, they've been an extremely efficient offense. They have a really strong offensive line. Obviously, Quinn Ewers at quarterback. And a really, really dynamic group of receivers. I know, the running game has been kind of a up and down thing with just the rotation at running back with injuries and the like. But this is a pretty complete offense as far as a really good tight end as well, and Gunnar Helm as well. What do you guys see in this matchup that concerns you, or that you feel confident about on the offensive side of the football, and kind of how they've played up to this point, and how it's going to translate on Saturday?
So my number one concern, and this just isn't a Georgia thing, because there are things Georgia does to us that no other team so far has done. I think other teams in the playoff will be able to exploit it, but it's the red zone. And it's because it's not just a Georgia thing. It's been a 2-year thing. So Steve Sarkisian's second year, because again, I always throw out a coach's first year. I don't really care what they do their first year, but his second year, we were 22nd in red zone scoring. Last year, we were 79th in red zone scoring. For just that blows my mind. And then this year we're 106. So we've actually gotten worse at red zone scoring. And just to go back to last year real quick, Iowa, for God's sakes, was 80th. So Iowa was only one worse than us last year. If just to put that in perspective again, too. So when we played Georgia and Texas A&M the last 6 quarters, we have over 600 yards of offense. That has only gotten us 16 points. We move the ball between the 20s easily versus anybody. Anybody will move it easily, but we do not score in the red zone. And I don't know what the reason for that is. I don't know if it's a Steve Sarkisian issue. I don't know if it's a Quinn Ewers issue. I don't know if it's a combination of both. I don't know if it's lack of run game and a real, truly talented running back there, because we don't have that CJ Baxter like we thought we were going to have coming into this year. So that's what concerns me the most going forward with this offense. And then also, we need explosive plays, because if you're not scoring in the red zone, you need to score on those 30, 40, 50-yard chunk plays. Our most explosive wide receiver probably misses this game. So that's also concerning with Isaiah Bond out. So that's my biggest concern going into this game.
Yeah, and I think, Bond, as much as he is a talent when he's healthy, he hasn't been healthy since the first Georgia game, I think, and it's almost been a detriment. You saw the first interception Quinn Ewers threw in the SEC championship game. That actually wasn't on Ewers. Ewers put the ball in the right spot. Bond just couldn't pivot on that ankle, and the cornerback got there first. Like that. That's the kind of stuff that it's almost, I don't want to say addition by subtraction by a guy like Isaiah Bond, but like he's the kind of guy, if his leg is attached, he's going to try to play. And sometimes that becomes a detriment when you're at a position that requires that level of finesse like he has. But I think like Matthew mentioned, the run game is the thing that really concerns me. Clemson still got dudes, right? Like the defense has struggled in some spots this year, but Clemson still got dudes, and Texas has not been consistent running the ball. And that's really where Texas, if you look at like the split stats for like wins and losses and kind of their biggest wins and their closest losses, when Texas has run the ball really well, Texas has won really big. And so that to me is the thing that is going to set the matchup for Texas. And ultimately it also opens up Quinn Ewers. He's had some struggles, but he's best in the play action game. He can sell the play action really well. He can push the ball down the field and put it in the right spot where he needs to. And so if Texas can't run the ball successfully at any point in the field, the offense is not going to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about this Texas offense coming in, and just full transparency for the Clemson Tigers, the one or probably the most glaring defense of issue for this Clemson Tiger team is the run defense. We've allowed a lot of explosive plays through the run game. Our ends haven't been particularly good at setting the edge outside of a TJ Parker, but he's one guy on the defensive end group. He can't do it all, although he tries to. I think he's got a record of 6 forced fumbles so far this season, a Clemson Tiger record for the program. But that's been something that this Clemson Tigers defense has struggled with. I know Texas has marginally gotten a little bit better as the season's gone on with the running game. Do you see any sort of wrinkles that a Steve Sarkisian is going to put in to try to challenge this Clemson Tigers defense? Again, I talk about the ability or the inability to set the edge for the Clemson Tigers. Are they going to try to go to maybe like an outside zone look or bring in an Arch Manning? Are they going to put in packages for him because he's an athletic quarterback? And if you've looked at Clemson's defense so far this season, we've struggled with the athletic quarterbacks. It's a fact of the matter. It's very evident if you've watched specifically the past few games, the past 2 games specifically for the Clemson Tigers, we struggle with the athletic quarterback. So what are your guys' thoughts on the wrinkles that Steve Sarkisian could add to the running game because of Clemson's weakness there? And then maybe a sighting of Arch Manning and how pivotal is he going to be or that he could be in this game against the Clemson Tigers?
Yeah, so on the outside zone thing, that is the bread and butter of the Steve Sarkisian offense. That and screens. It's outside zone and screens. If you can stop those two, the only team that has is Georgia, you can win the football game. If you can't, it's going to be a pretty long day. And the setting of the edge there is very interesting because if he's the only guy that can do it, they're just going to run away from him and go to the other edge and just do it all day long. I mean, that's what's funny about this team. So Arkansas, for example, that's a dogfight. And then as soon as they tie the game, we decide, you know what, we can run outside zone 15 plays in a row, go down and score a touchdown. And we did exactly that. And I'm like, okay, if that was so good, why didn't we just do that the whole damn game? Yeah. But, it worked out. And that's going to be the key. If you guys can set the edge, force the run back inside off the outside zone, you'll win the football game. I said that on our channel. If they stop the running the screens, they'll win the game because guess what? The 2 teams or the 2 games that worked where the team stopped it were Georgia and they won the game. So my brain tells me if Clemson does it, they'll probably win the game.
Yeah, and I think Clemson, like I mentioned, has athletes. They have dudes, and that's the thing that Georgia brought to the table as well, is that they were able to out-athlete Texas as far as like quickness, agility, run fits, those types of things. If your running back can't find a seam, if your running back can't make himself small and get through it, the amount of zone blocking you do doesn't really matter. So, Clemson still has dudes. Blue chip ratio is there. Like they didn't forget how to coach football in Clemson, South Carolina. So they're going to be prepared for that. I'm sure of it. As far as the Arch Manning thing, it has gotten, at least in the 2 times we've seen it, it's becoming a little predictable, I think, is my big gripe with it. I think they're going to have to mix in some pass plays if they're going to do it, just to keep you from being able to key on, okay, Arch is in, watch the zone read.
They're running the football.
So that to me is the big question, is do they add some wrinkles? I said it on our show, like I would love to see like a little Tebow style jump pass from him, just to get people guessing, but that's just me being feisty. But yeah, I would imagine they'd bring in some of that Arch stuff, especially if Quinn's ankle is still kind of giving him issues. I would anticipate seeing Arch Manning for at least probably 5 or 10 snaps in the game.
And what I'd also love to see is, it's probably not going to happen. What we did last year, for whatever reason, we ran a lot of 13 personnel with Malik Ogbo as like a jumbo tight end. He's like a backup offensive lineman. We have not done that at all this year. I don't understand why we didn't, because it worked phenomenally last year. I'm wondering if because Paul Chris left, he was an analyst for us last year, if that was more of his wrinkle, but it worked. It should have been used this year. I'm hoping Sark pulls that out for this game. Maybe has 5 to 7 plays in this game where we use it, because you can run play action off that. It also just helps, in the run game a lot too, having an extra basically offensive lineman out there.
And you guys mentioned that, and with how Texas runs their offense, it's going to put a lot of stress, I think, for Clemson, not just on the edge, but, at linebacker.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure if you've done research on Clemson's defense, that, they have some pretty high caliber names at linebacker, Barrett Carter, Wade Woodaz, of course, the true freshman, Sammy Brown. But they've really largely been underwhelming this year. And that's the thing that has been really, really shocking for me, especially with, depth-wise, that was always a kind of a concern coming into the season, and, you have one of your backup linebackers in Kobe McLeod tear his ACL early in the year. That certainly didn't help. But just the lack of ability to fit the run, I think at times from the second level in this linebacker group in particular has made me really concerned with this matchup, and teams that have successfully run outside zone and stretch plays on Clemson have taken advantage of that. Louisville, I think, is I think if I'm Steve Sarkisian, I'm salivating watching that Louisville film, because Louisville didn't have a super dynamic mobile quarterback in Tyler Shuck. Like he's not that kind of guy, but they lined it up and they just out-gapped Clemson over and over and over again. And obviously Isaac Brown is a fantastic running back, but it was really, really shocking to see. And I think just throughout this season, you've seen teams have been able to, establish the run game and especially the outside run game. And these linebackers have not always been as sound in terms of their run fits as you would hope they would be. So, when I look at this matchup, you're going to need a really big game from Barrett Carter, and not just in the run game, but also, he's probably going to have to cover, one of Texas's really good tight, especially Gunnar Helm. Like, he's a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams. And so it's going to put a lot of stress on him. And it makes me wonder how much we see of Sammy Brown in this game, because I mentioned him earlier. When Sammy Brown has been in the football game, when Clemson has had 3 linebackers, they've been a lot better at stopping the run. Just to put that bluntly, I mean, against South Carolina, they kind of switched to a 4-3. Traditionally we would typically only have 2 linebackers, but they really wanted to stop the run, and they did. Sammy led the team in tackles and tackles for loss. He has 5 sacks on the season. So, from a personnel decision standpoint, when you take him out of the game in that fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden South Carolina is running it down your throat, and Lenora Sellers is breaking off huge chunk runs, it makes you wonder kind of what are we doing here? So, that's another wrinkle that I'm interested to see from the Clemson side of things, as far as how much do we see of Sammy Brown? Because, of course, if you want to have 3 linebackers on the field, that does mean you have to take a DB off the field. And obviously Texas has really, really talented wide receivers. Even with Isaiah Bond potentially not playing, like they have some really dynamic guys on the outside. Yeah. So it's going to be a really big test for the linebackers, and of course, the corners, who I think have honestly played well for the most part this year. But this is a step up in competition as far as just the caliber of athlete that they're going to be facing on the outside.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And look, that's what happens when you take your leading tackler off the field in the fourth quarter, and you piss away a 10-point lead to your rivals. And there's really no explanation for it. The coaches have been asked multiple times, and there's been no good explanation given for it. But leaving that behind, this is going to be, I truly think, is going to be a game of adjustments between a Clemson Tiger team and a Texas Longhorn team. Specifically, Steve Sarkisian. This guy's an offensive mind. He's very creative. They use a lot of window dressing. They use a lot of motion. They use a lot of pre-snap stuff to try to figure out what the defense is doing. So it's really going to come down to, I think, a chess match between Steve Sarkisian and a Wes Goodwin, and who's going to win out. Who's going to be the guy that makes the better adjustments? Who's going to be the guy that ends up limiting what the other team does well? And that's how's it going to go? It's anybody's guess, right? Obviously, the lean is for the offense because it's just a little bit easier to scheme things on offense. You're always reacting and adjusting and doing things to try to catch up on defense. So you tend to give the nod to the offensive side of the ball, especially when you have a mastermind behind there like a Steve Sarkisian. And Jordan, you mentioned the three-backer look that we've gone to, and ever since Sammy Brown has become a more prominent player on the defensive side of the ball as far as playing closer to starter snaps, he's led the team in tackles every single game. That's been the case. So I think he's going to be an important piece in the Clemson defense. The secondary is going to be challenged. I mean, this Texas offense has athletes all over the field. They have speed. They're going to challenge Clemson sideline to sideline with the screen passes. They're going to challenge them in the running game. They're going to challenge them at the receiver and cornerback positions. So it's really going to be a chess matchup between, Wes Goodwin and a Steve Sarkisian. And I think it's going to be really fun to watch. And it's going to be one of those things where both sides are probably going to win their fair share. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to crunch time when those key drives happen. Whose athletes can out athlete the other guys, right? Who can out execute the other guys, I think, is what this game comes down to. And yeah, I ask you guys, this Texas offense, as good as they have been at points and times this season, and as good as Quinn Ewers has been at points in time in his career and this season, you talk about the red zone struggles. You talk about the inability to finish drives. So I looked into the Texas offense a little bit. 7 turnovers in the last 3 games. Where is that coming from specifically? Why do you guys see that as the kind of the reasons that is happening? And, what is your outlook on a successful day for the Texas offense? What does that look like against this Clemson Tiger defense?
So my number one concern, and it going back, I don't know, a month and a half now, Jaden Blue fumbled twice. I forget versus what team it was. But at that point, when he had fumbled twice, he fumbled once every 40 touches. Since then, it has gotten worse. It is once every 29 touches.
Oh,
he is one of the most dynamic players I have ever seen at Texas. One-on-one, you will not get him down. Not going to happen. I don't care who it is. It's not going to happen. He'll juke you out of your shoes. But if you can get him, he probably has a good chance of fumbling the ball. That's when you mentioned that TJ Parker thing. That scares the absolute hell out of me, because if you go for that ball, he will give it up. He does not carry it very well. So that's number one. Number two, Quinn Ewers, sometimes it's like lackadaisical is how the best way I describe it. Like, you know what? I think I can get it in there. Let's loft it up. And there's no urgency behind it. It's just like, you know what? I think I can get in there. Let's loft it up. Then there's 2 examples. That Georgia game, lofts it up. I believe Daniel Harris hits him right in the hands. It was like a punt, basically. He drops it. A&M, Bryce Anderson runs down, about to make a pick, goes right through his hands. Gunnar Helm catches it. That one had a little bit more juice behind it, but those are the 2 things with the turnovers, and those have to change, especially the Jaden Blue one. The Jaden Blue one is super frustrating. Because the guy is the most talented running back we have. Even when CJ Baxter is healthy, I think that's the case, but he just fumbles too often.
I think, and I don't know if I've ever shared this, but I think something happened and changed in the way he delivers the ball after he hurt his shoulder, kind of collarbone situation 2 years ago against Alabama. And I don't know if he's fully figured out how to put the ball in the same spots in the same ways that he used to. I think his body mechanics have to change. His feet get lazy at times, but he was able to get by on that because he had such a cannon on his, attached to his shoulder. And I think something may have shifted. There's always these little nagging injuries. The oblique injury this year is going to change the way he's had to deliver the ball. And so I think there's some of that. I also think, I'm trying to find a nice way to say this, and he said it about himself. Quinn Ewers is kind of a head case sometimes. He is a self-admitted perfectionist. He kind of gets in his own head sometimes. And so you can tell pretty early on what Quinn Ewers we're going to get. And then sometimes it's based on the scripting. Like if Steve Sarkisian scripts the game in a way where you get him 3 or 4 quick, easy completions early and he starts to feel it, he starts to get into a rhythm, then you'll probably pretty likely get the good Quinn Ewers. If Sark comes out and dials up some deep shots early and they don't land, then I think we're going to get a shaky Quinn Ewers game. And so I think it's a combination of having to relearn some of his body and still having to figure that out. You know, he was a kid that in high school could just roll up and be the most talented kid on the field by just virtue of, again, the God-given right arm he has. And I think right. He lost some of that with the injury and the repeated injuries he's had to his upper body. And so he's having to relearn some of that. And then also, again, getting him in a spot where he feels confident, he feels comfortable. He's been meeting with a sports psychologist trying to figure out what's going on between the ears. And so I think it's a combination of those two things with him specifically. And then with the red zone stuff, some of it's play calling. Like you mentioned Steve Sarkisian being a savant. Sometimes I think Steve Sarkisian is too smart for his own good in some of those red zone calls. Or you'll see he'll have a matchup he likes, but for some reason he's going to call a fade from 4 yards out, and he'll do it 2 times in a row because he likes the matchup. Like that makes me want to pull my hair out. I braid it so I can't. But like that's the kind of stuff that it's a combination of Sark kind of getting almost too smart, too cute for his own good, and then the execution mistakes happen from there.
Yeah, wow, and you know it's. When you mentioned, you know, Sark kind of getting in his own head or Quinn Ewers getting in his own head and Sark sometimes, you know, outsmarting himself, you know, it kind of reminds me so much of, you know, Clemson's own, you know, coordinators at times, you know, and I guess this is a good time to transition to the other side of the football because we've been talking about the defense or offense and defense for a while, but you know. The matchup between Clemson's offense and Texas's defense, I think, is ultimately going to be the deciding factor in whether or not this is a dogfight or Texas is bullying Clemson in the the second half and right. kind of pulling away. Mm-hmm. When I look at this Texas defense, they are one of the. Like I don't, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but as an outside observer, they are one of the most complete units, regardless of offense or defense in all of college football. This is a very, very talented, athletic unit and physical up front. Really, really good in the second and third level, in closing space and in coverage. I think this is honestly the best defense Clemson has played, even better than Georgia.
1,000%.
Yeah. I think this is the best defense Clemson will have faced this year. So I think ultimately, when I look at this side of the ball, with Cade Klubnik, making his homecoming, and all the obviously Quinn Ewers and Cade Klubnik obviously going against each other in high school at the highest level, state championship. Like there's a lot of fanfare. But when you look at the matchup, there are a lot of things that scare me about Clemson's ability to generate points against this Texas defense. I'm going to let you guys do it because you guys are the experts. But kind of break down just what makes this Texas defense so so special. Because honestly, they are one of the best units I've watched of any team this season. So I would just take the floor.
Yeah, I would say number one for me is the athleticism. There isn't anyone on that field that I'm like, that guy's a bad athlete. And Sark fixed that from last year. Like, no offense, we had guys last year that just had no business being on the football field at Texas. They just didn't. I'm not going to call them out by name. Texas fans, who I'm talking about, but they just didn't belong. And these guys do. Like, our most unathletic guy is Michael Taft, and he plays with some of the most heart you'll see in college football. And that just dude, Brooks Austin. So if anyone knows him on YouTube, I'm pointing him out. And he gave him the perfect name, the Gruden grinder. John Gruden has his Gruden grinder. That's who that guy is. Michael Taft is awesome. And then they play with great communication. If you look at Texas defense, anything that the offense does to adjust, immediately you see the linebackers and secondary immediately look at each other, giving hand signals or talking and letting each other know where to go. And then they're really good at rallying to the football. You will never see one guy get there and that's it. You're going to see 4 to 5 guys running full out, all out, going after the football and making plays happen. Perfect example of that in game, Arkansas. Alfred Collins tries to knock down a screen pass versus Arkansas. He immediately, as soon as he doesn't knock down that screen, turns around, runs as fast as he can, strips the ball carrier, and there's 3 or 4 other longhorns there to jump on the football. That's the difference in this team. And you see that they play with an intensity, they play with a passion, and they're super athletic. And when you come together like that on defense is like that in any sport, by the way. If you see a really good defense, usually those guys love to play defense. They're out there working their ass off, and they're usually athletic as well. And that's what this defense is.
I don't want to oversimplify it, but like defense is pretty simple when it comes to like you play good fundamentals. You don't kind of try to extend. You don't try to do too much. And you play. That's how you play really good defense. And I honestly think that's a lot of what Texas has been able to do is just play really good defense. If you look back to some of those Tom Herman defenses, they were doing too much. They were missing tackles. They weren't using their bodies well. And that's been the big change for me. It's just like the little things make a big difference on defense. How they're using their bodies to get in front of the ball carrier, using their whole body rather than just their arms to make tackles, rallying to the football. You talk about Clemson struggling to set edges. Texas has set better edges than I've seen in a very long time. You've got a guy, Trey Moore, who came in from UTSA as a transfer as an edge, and he put up double-digit sacks last year, and Texas fans were kind of like, oh, he's only got like 3 or 4 sacks this year. That guy does all of the dirty work that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. He's like the king of keep my outside arm free, keep my eye on the ball, nobody's coming back this way. It's just those little things in defense that make the difference for Texas. And I think a lot of it comes down to that. You mix that with the level of athleticism they have. They've upgraded athleticism in the trenches. It's hard to say that they've upgraded fully because like you lose 2 guys in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft to tackle. It's hard to like upgrade from that. But you've got Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, 2 guys are really high ceiling guys that came in and flashed a bit early. They've kind of taken a step up and really been those like senior stalwart guys in the middle. It doesn't hurt that you add Colin Simmons, 5-star all-world, probably could go pro in 2 years rather than 3 if you really wanted to. But like it's just you combine the athleticism with just playing good, fundamentally sound. Like Pete Kwiatkowski is just an old school fundamental defensive coach, and they kind of take on that personality of their coach.
Yeah, and other coaches have said this in the press conference, like, what do they do? Is like, they kind of just line up and play football because they just have the guys to do that. Like, they just play cover 2, cover 3 and say, beat us. And no team yet has really done that. So they're really good, man. Honestly, they're way more fun to watch than our offense.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, they got a ton of chemistry, I think, on that side of the ball from guys that played together at the high school level or at least knew each other pretty well at the high school level and have trained in the off season and things like that. It's hard to see number 4 out there for the Texas Longhorns and Andrew Makuba.
He tried to kill someone in your honor last week, so you're all good.
Yeah, I saw that, and I respect 100% what he did. It was awesome to see. It's not going to be awesome to see when he's out there executing at an elite level against the Clemson Tigers. That's going to be unfortunate. He's probably, when we're talking about, and not to take this to the transfer portal or to get off topic or anything like that, but to just talk about like probably the best player that Clemson's lost via the transfer portal, Andrew Makuba might be that guy.
Yeah.
He's definitely the biggest loss that Clemson's probably had since the advent of the transfer portal and since Clemson has been losing players every single year to the transfer portal. We tend to lose backups and guys that, are looking for a better opportunity or more snaps or something like that. We don't tend to lose Andrew Makuba. So it'll be both fun and agonizing to watch him perform against this Clemson Tiger offense when it comes to this Saturday, 4 p.m. kickoff. But talking about this Texas defense, a stat that I ran across was just kind of crazy to me. And I still don't 100% believe it. I don't want to believe it, but number one pass defense, obviously in the nation, only allowed 4 touchdown passes this season. Do I have that correct?
I believe that is correct.
It is.
That's
That is
scary.
incredible.
The fewest they've allowed since Darrell Royal played Bear Bright in the Cotton 1975.
I mean, we're talking about 2024 college football. And I know the arguments out there. And look, we're going to talk about some of them as we go on in this show, and about how, Texas hasn't necessarily faced the most potent of offenses around the country. But at the end of the day, if you're only allowing 4 touchdown passes over an entire season, I don't really care who you're playing. That's an elite level defense. That secondary is performing at an extremely high level. And as a Clemson fan, that's scary. Not going to lie. That's 100% scary. Cade Klubnik is going to have his work cut out for him. These wide receivers are going to have their work cut out for them. And I think ultimately it comes down to, can Clemson not become one-dimensional in this game against a very elite Texas defense? And if you've looked at this Clemson offense as we've gone throughout the season, we've had some really high highs and some really low lows. And part of those lows, unfortunately, have been against the better defenses that we have played so far. So tell me about a little bit more. I know you guys have sung the praises of this Texas defense. Tell me where this Texas defense may not be the greatest. Tell me where they are a little bit vulnerable on that side of the ball.
Occasionally, I think in the trenches they can get beat up a little bit in the run game, but it's not super often. Here's the example. It's not a great one, but we're number one defensively in the secondary with giving up explosive plays, so we don't give up explosive plays. Now, the run defense is still good. I think it's like we only give it up. We're number 10 in that category, so it is worse than the secondary. It's still good, but it's still but it is worse. Honestly, that's really it. Like, once in a while they'll give up an explosive run. Honestly, though, the only guy that's been able to do it consistently is on Georgia. Trevor Etienne has had most of that. I don't really think there's any other running back that's been able to do it, but that is the weakness, if you want to call it, of the Texas defense.
Right.
Go ahead.
I think they struggle a bit when things go off, too off schedule. Like Diego Pavia had a pretty solid game against Texas because he plays, and I call it like naughty toddler football. He kind of just runs around and sees what breaks loose. And so I think the athleticism of Cade Klubnik scares me in that way, because Cade Klubnik is a dude. I was mad that he did not stay in the state of Texas when he committed to Clemson. I was pissed off about that. I'll just be real with y'all. He and Andrew McCuber are two that really just stabbed me in the heart. But that's what worries me about the Clemson offense, is that when push comes to shove, Cade Klubnik is a dude, period, end of sentence. He can come out and he is good enough on any given Saturday to just go supernova and win a game for Clemson. And so I think his athleticism is something that worries me, because, Diego Pavia is not on the level of Cade Klubnik, and I saw some of the things that Diego Pavia was able to do to the Texas defense. Now, Texas gave him the ball in some favorable situations, but a combination of Quinn Ewers throws a couple of bad interceptions, Cade Klubnik starts to feel himself a little bit, the offense starts to get going, things can get really nasty.
And I think that's ultimately what is going to have to be the great equalizer for Clemson, I think, offensively in this game. I think Cade Klubnik is going to have to make Texas wrong even when they're right. With the struggles of especially within the last month or so with running the football for Clemson, which obviously does not bode well, when you're going up against a defense of the caliber of Texas. But, with Phil Maffa being extremely limited with, his shoulder, and, your backup running back, Jay Haynes, tearing his ACL in the ACC championship game, there's pretty slim pickings as far as who to go to. I mean, you'll probably see a bit of Keith Adams Jr. He's more of the Phil Maffa type bruiser. He's not going to, he's not going to break off a 60-yard run for a touchdown, and he's not that kind of back. You might see some of true freshman David Iziamume, who redshirted this year, but of course, with the new rules, he can play in the postseason. So I think the quarterback run game, I think, is going to have to be the wrinkle that Clemson leans on, at least somewhat, in this game, because you don't want to put Cade Klubnik in too many situations where he can take hits, because this Texas defense has some thumpers. But I think you're going to have to run him in this football game, because I think just the limitations in the run game, and with the offensive line not generating as much push as they were earlier in the season. Especially since you're going against a defensive line the caliber of Texas, it's going to be Cade Klubnik is going to have to make some things happen in this game, and whether it's in the run game or creating and escaping pressure, there are going to be guys in his face. He's going to have to win. At that point, and the receivers, you got to trust them. You got to win your one-on-ones. Clemson has a talented but young crop of receivers that is going up against arguably the best secondary in the country. So there's not going to be a lot of plays, but you're going to have to make them anyway. That's just, I think that's some of these guys are going to have to grow up. And Antonio Williams is obviously the guy that I think Texas needs to be worried about the most. I'm locking in on him because he's Cade's safety blanket. He's been the most consistent just receiver for Clemson. He's really talented. Route runner and probably the best on the team at just getting separation. And then, the young receivers in Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore, they're going to have to play at a really high level as well. And at tight end, Jake Brenningstool, I think he's going to have to play a role in this, a big role in this game, because I think, just having an athletic tight end can make things, a lot easier on you. And I feel like at some points this year, they have not really emphasized him as much in the offense as I would like. So he's going to have to play at an extremely high level as well, because I don't think this offensive line for Clemson is going to just be able to straight up win their one-on-ones in this game, if I'm being honest. So you're going to have to create some plays off platform.
Yeah, I think another example, Gerald hit on Diego Pavia. Dylan Gabriel last year. Our defense wasn't as good last year, but it's not about the design run plays for the QB. It's the off-script run plays for the QB. If Cade Klubnik is able to get out of the pocket on his own, create whatever he needs to through the air or just on the ground in little chunks, I think that does scare me a little bit. And I said on our show, I think for Clemson to win this game, I think you're looking at a stat line for Cade Klubnik of like 225 yards passing and 50 to 75 yards rushing. I think if that's in the cards, I think Clemson has a pretty good chance of winning the game.
You also had to remind me, I forgot Bryant Wesco was there, man. That's another one I wish stayed in the state of Texas. That dude, like,
he's good, man.
That's why I keep saying it. Like, Clemson has dudes. Like, it is what it is. Like, 10-3 might be a disappointing season, but like, Clemson has dudes. Like, they've got athletes. They didn't forget how to coach in Columbia, South Carolina. And with 2 weeks to plan and prepare, like, there's a lot that can go well for that offense. And I hate playing a Riley off rest. We did it for years with Lincoln Riley. Now we got Garrett Riley in the playoffs. Like, I'm not like those dudes can dial up an offense. And Clemson, again, it feels like the dumb way to say it. Like, they've got the Jimmies and Joes. So if the X's and O's are there, things can go well.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly got dudes on the Clemson side of the ball, no doubt about it. You mentioned a Bryant Wesco. You mentioned a Cade Klubnik. We got Harris Sewell. We got all these guys coming home to Texas. So there is those storylines of guys playing with a little bit of extra motivation because they are coming home. And R.J. Mickens.
R.J. Mickens, man.
Our best safety, our best secondary piece all season, has been for probably 2 seasons at Clemson. He's coming home as well. We got tons of guys. Ian Reed, I think, obviously coming home as well. So there's a ton of Texas ties on this Clemson Tigers team. And I think that lends a little bit of extra to the game as well, and definitely makes some fun storylines. But, to your guys' point, I think probably the biggest X factor on the Clemson Tigers team as far as the offensive side of the ball is Cade Klubnik. He's going to have an absolutely heroic game. He's going to have an amazing game in order for Clemson to win this game. Make no mistake about it. He's going to have to be able to do it with both his legs and his arm. He's going to have to be able to do it off script. He's going to have to Jordan's point, make this Texas defense wrong even when they're right. And that's going to be probably the key to Clemson winning this game. It worries me because, our 1,100-yard back, our absolute animal in the backfield has been banged up. He needs off-season surgery. He's got a torn labrum. He's been dealing with it for probably the past 4 to 5 weeks. It's getting worse and worse seemingly every single week. And we lose our number 2 guy, Jay Haynes, behind him last week where he tore his ACL. He had surgery this past week. So the running back room is definitely a question mark. How healthy is a Phil Maffa? How effective can he be in this game? I think goes a long way in determining how successful this Clemson offense is. And then those young guys, can they step up? Can an Easy E step up? Can an Adam step up? Can those guys step up and become that stopgap between a Phil Maffa and taking over for that 2 spot of Jay Haynes? And can they shoulder some of that load? That remains to be seen. I think we got athletes. I think we got guys that can get it done. But at the end of the day, this is this is the best defense that Clemson will face or has faced this season to date. So it's going to be super interesting. It's going to be kind of a chess match. Again, Garrett Riley is going to have to scheme these guys open. He's going to have to create plays where there's not plays. You're not going to be able to just line up and run base stuff all the time. You're going to have to kind of do some stuff that throws this Texas defense off because they have been so elite for the entire season. And you've seen what they've done to a Georgia offense. You've seen what they've done to a guy who was absolutely elite last season in a Carson Beck, who they made look pretty pedestrian all season. Although they lost to Georgia twice, Carson Beck has not looked good in either of those games. So you got to credit that Texas defense, and it's going to be super interesting. So kind of to wrap this thing up, guys, I think what are the keys to the game for this Texas team on the offense and defensive side of the ball? If Texas were to be successful against this Clemson Tigers team, which is the betting favorite, right? They still are a 12.5+ point favorite over the Clemson Tigers. What are their keys to the game in order to have a successful outing this coming Saturday in Austin, Texas, when they take on the Clemson Tigers?
Yeah, so when you get down in the red zone finish, I mean, another game that comes to mind, Texas A&M, we're up 17-0. We throw that pick six. We go down there again to go up 24-7 at least. Then Quinn Ewers fumbles. If we don't do either of those things, at worst, it should have been 23-0. So you got to finish when you get in the red zone. Number 2, Bert Auburn, my brother, you got to make some field goals. We got to make field goals when at 40 and under, you got to make them. Anything over that, you know what? Fine, flip a coin. But yeah, he's just been so inconsistent this year. And when we get in these type of games, every point matters. So we need to kick and make our field goals. And then if we're going to turn the ball over, at least don't do it on our side of the field. In that first Georgia game, turned it over, 4 times on our side of the field. They had like 4 or 5 drives that started inside our own 35-yard line. So if you're going to turn it over on the other side of the field, honestly. At this point, I expect the Texas team to turn the ball over. I think it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when they do it. Can it not be in a critical moment? And then can it not be on a critical point on the field as well? So those are my 3 keys to the game.
Yeah. First of all, I want to apologize. This is really inappropriate. Before I said Columbia, I know it's not Columbia. I was just rolling. My kids woke me up super early this morning. I didn't mean to cuss y'all like that. I'm sorry.
You had Tiggs irate in the chat. Yeah,
I know. I'm sorry.
You gonna set these Clemson Tigers off calling them?
That is a slur. I know that. And I'm sorry. I did not mean to offend anybody. I do my best. I'm sorry. My son woke me up at like 5:45 this morning, so we're trying the best we can. I think the keys for me, Matthew said it really well, but I really think, if Texas can get out of their own way offensively, like don't turn the ball over, just like play fundamental football, like don't turn the ball over, don't make dumb mistakes. Texas has a lot of procedural penalties as well on the offensive line. So if the offensive linemen can hold their water, like just play solid football. Don't do anything too much. You don't have to do a whole lot. The defense, this is no shot at anybody. The defense only given up more than 17 points like 3 times this year, and twice was to Georgia. So like if you can put up 24 points, generally the defense is going to do enough for you to win the game. So like just don't get in your own way. Don't shoot yourself in your own foot, and run the ball. Like I'm old school. Like run the ball, run the outside zone, find those creases, hold on to the football when you can. Defensively, I think it's going to be contain Cade Klubnik. I think he is, like I said, too talented to not go off at times in this game, especially in front of the home crowd. Getting the rematch with Quinn Ewers from the state championship game. Like Quinn's gonna have to throw it at one of his old teammates. He mentioned R.J. Mickens. They played on the same team, played on the state championship team. They're at Southlake, so Cade Klubnik's gonna want to put on a show, and I don't blame him. Like come home and try to win the games. I think containing him, keeping him, and keeping the lid on his talent, because like I said, he is a talent. He's an incredible talent. He's going to play in the NFL. So like if you can contain Cade Klubnik defensively, keep him from going too off script, and keep the offense from shooting itself in their own foot. That's kind of my 2 big keys.
Jordan, your keys to the game?
Yeah, I think for Clemson, I think defensively, I'll start defensively. You guys mentioned the turnover issues with Texas. I think Clemson is going to have to force it, would not just force turnovers, but win the turnover margin. That's something that, as up and down as this team has been this season, that is something they've done extremely well. I believe they're number 3 in the country in turnover margin. They don't turn the ball over much, and they've done a good job at forcing turnovers, as maligned as this defense has been a lot of the year. So I think you're going to have to get those in this game. You're going to have to steal possessions, because I think for Clemson offensively, they just have not shown that they can generate enough offense against the better defenses they've played, by themselves. And so I think, you saw in the SMU game and the ACC championship game, they're the reason they were able to get, that early 21-7 lead midway through the second quarter, was because the defense created short fields, on turnover. TJ Parker had on SMU's first drive, he had the strip sack fumble on SMU's side of the field. Then, you have the interception by Khalil Barnes. Like, you need to have those type of havoc plays in this game. Mm-hmm. And I know that's the key for basically any football game, winning the turnover margin. But I think for Clemson in this matchup, especially because I think they're somewhat outmanned on the lines of scrimmage. I think they need to create short fields for this offense. And Cade Klubnik, he's going to have to make plays and like I said, make Texas wrong defensively, even when they're right. And the receivers, they got to win. They got to win. They got to win one-on-ones, because Texas is going to they have the utmost confidence in their dudes, and for good reason. And I think you have to be the aggressor, and you have to be the one that makes them pay for that. And so for Clemson, it's very simple, because I don't think they're going to be able to just run it down Texas's throat, especially since with the issues at running back right now. And Cade Klubnik is going to have to be special with his legs and with his arm. Ultimately, that's if Clemson does those things, which they haven't done against the best teams on their schedule this year. They're going to have to do something they haven't done all season. That's your path to victory. You got to Texas has got to make mistakes, and you have to capitalize at a level that you haven't done, frankly, a lot of this season.
No, I think all that makes sense. Obviously, everything starts on the line of scrimmage. In major college football and Division I college football, everything is predicated off the line of scrimmage. So Clemson obviously has to dominate the line of scrimmage. Creating turnovers, Jordan, you covered that perfectly. Clemson has to have turnovers in this game. They just do. They got to create short fields, especially against this defense. Stop the run. and Cade Klubnik has to have one hell of a game. That's Clemson's path to victory. Stop the run. Cade Klubnik have a hell of a game. Create turnovers. That's kind of Clemson's path to victory. It's absolutely going to be a crazy matchup. Is anybody going to the game this Saturday?
I'm
not going.
I got kids, 3 kids to put through college, so I unfortunately cannot.
Yeah,
I
no,
I
get you.
I feel you. The way my bank account is set up, I got a checking and a savings.
But all the money's
All
in
the
my
money
savings.
is in my savings. Those of you that know, that's pretty good. But let's get into somewhat of a score prediction, guys. You guys don't have to give a particular point spread or point score prediction if you don't want to. If you want to, we absolutely welcome it. But we're going to do it here on the show live and let everybody know who we think is winning this game. Just setting it up first and foremost from a spread standpoint. Obviously, this line opened up, according to ESPN, this line opened up at Texas favored at 10.5. They are now favored at 12. The over-under opened up at 54.5. It is now down to 51.5. I'll let you guys go around the horn. What do you guys think of the spread? And if you want to give a score prediction, by all means, go ahead and give a score prediction for the Clemson-Texas game coming up this Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern in Austin, Texas, the first ever matchup between the Texas Longhorns and the Clemson Tigers, two of the biggest brands in college football right now. So it's going to be an exciting game. Regardless of the way it goes, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I think it's too many points, honestly. Texas plays with their food way too often. Seen it the whole year. I don't expect it to change. If it changes, then maybe then I'll reconsider and say this team can win a national championship. But I'm not there anymore because of the reason I just stated. They play with their food so often. So I do think they win the game because I just think this defense is that damn good. I really do. I think if we're ranking the best units just in the college football playoff, like if you rank everyone's offense and defense, I think Texas is number one unit-wise with the Texas defense. So I'm going to take Texas to win the game 26-17. I think it's relatively low scoring most of the game. And I think Texas just puts on a late touchdown at the end of the game to seal the victory. But I think it's going to be a dogfight. I really do. I could see Texas putting up like 450 yards and still only having 26 points. And then Clemson has like 270, 280 yards, but they're still in the game because that's what this team does. So I think it's going to be a good football game.
That was the Georgia game to a T in that first half, right?
Yeah.
Texas had doubled them up on yardage, but only had a 3-point lead. Now, I kind of tipped my hand a little bit earlier. I'm with Matthew on that. I think 12 is just too much, especially with the way the Texas offense has played. Do I think they're good enough to put up 24 points? Yeah, probably. So I think my head probably has it like 24-17, I would say. Probably take Clemson, but Texas wins is probably where my head goes. But there's a world where, like Matthew said, Quinn Ewers throws a couple of interceptions. Texas coughs with the ball a couple of times. Cade Klubnik puts that offense in the end zone in a short field, and things get interesting. So, but I do think probably Texas by 7 is where I have it in the 24-17 range.
Well, I'm glad Matthew picked 26-17 because that unorthodox score, but I'm glad he picked 26 because I was going to go 27 because I'm glad we're all probably not going to have the same score, but I'm with you guys. I can't get past the matchup, especially on the lines of scrimmage for Clemson in this game. I do think that they're going to. I think Clemson is going to have Texas scouted really well. I think that's something that they've done consistently pretty well this season. It's been through the course of the game when teams make adjustments. I mean, you saw in the Georgia game. I mean, it was a 6-0 game at halftime. I thought, and they didn't even scout Georgia necessarily. They didn't really have much tape to go off of. But the thing that has plagued them is as the game goes on, when teams start to make adjustments, we have not seen either coordinator really adjust at a high level this season, and whether they're up and holding on to a lead or they're trailing and trying to get back in the game, they have not been able to do that. So I'm going Texas 27-17. I think it's going to be a dogfight for a lot of the game, but I think Texas is just going to impose their will, especially late, because I think they are built to win this type of game more than I think Clemson is right now. So I'm 27-17 Texas. We'll see what happens. I think Cade is going to have some. He's going to have some special moments to make up the difference, because I think there's too much that does not favor Clemson in this matchup right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've kind of talked about this matchup in depth about as much as we possibly could in the past hour. I thank you guys so much for being here. You guys have been awesome and so gracious with your time. At the end of the day, I just don't think Clemson's offense has demonstrated the ability to score consistently enough against a defense that is rated as high, regardless of who they have played, of this Texas defense. I just don't trust this Clemson offense's ability to move the ball consistently and put it in the end zone when it comes to this Texas defense. I think that's the difference in the game. I think ultimately the Texas defense will get the job done. I'm going to pick Clemson to cover. I think 12 is too much for Texas. I don't think Texas offense is good enough to cover the 12. I know Clemson's defense has struggled immensely at points and times in the season. But again, I don't think it's enough to cover this 12 points. But I'm going to take Texas to win the game 23-16. Unfortunately, I think a lot of Clemson's drives is going to stall out in this game. I think a lot of Clemson's drives are going to ultimately end up in field goal attempts by a Nolan Hoosier. And Texas has demonstrated time and time again this season you can move the ball maybe a little bit against them, but in the red zone, they're going to clamp down. And this Clemson team has not proven the ability to capitalize in the red zone clearly enough. So for those reasons, I'm going to pick Texas to win the game, but I'm going to pick Clemson to cover 23-16. Texas takes the dub. That's where I'm at.
Another thing that scares me in this game on our side is the punter. He has the worst punting average out of every punter in college football. So, if you guys –
Clemson's punter might rival him in this game.
Yeah.
Get the label for the worst punter.
Okay, cool.
What's that mean? They're having a bid off, right?
Yeah, bid off. That's what. Hey, we'll hand out 2 trophies: the winner of the game, and then the worst punter award. We'll go.
There we go.
Yeah, let's do it.
Maybe we can do it in the post game live video where we award the winner of the game and then the worst punter of the game.
Honestly, we could combine it.
I got a feeling both teams are going to punt multiple times in this game.
Yeah, well, and we could honestly combine it, just special teams in general, since we both have so many questions.
There you go.
In the kicking game as well. So man, we might as well. And honestly, that could be another equalizer, I guess, or who sucks the least at special teams is the probably the best way to put it.
I wouldn't put a single dollar on Clemson when it comes.
I would not.
Well, you haven't seen our guy yet. When you watch him, you will. But
I don't know about that.
We'll
all right,
see.
guys. That has been the Texas preview right here on the Clemson Tigers All-In Show. I want to thank Matthew. I want to thank Gerald. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
I've been called worse, man. It's all good. I've been called way worse.
Matthew and Gerald for popping on here. They are a part of the Voice of College Football Texas channel. I encourage you guys to go check them out. We will both do post-game live videos immediately following this game. It's going to be amazing. You guys have been so gracious with your time. You have given us well over an hour at this point.
Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time. I'm sure you guys have lives to live. So go ahead and plug everything that you guys need to plug as far as social media, as far as YouTube goes, as far as the Voice of College Football goes. And we will let you go because I'm sure you guys need to get on to bigger and better things other than the All In Show.
Gerald, I'll let you go first.
I wouldn't say better. Like I am gonna go hang out with my wife, so maybe better. Yeah, I'm gonna say better. Now, so you can catch me on social media. I'm on X and Blue Sky, are kind of my two chief ones. At GH Goodrich is where I tweet about like nerdy stuff and I make fun of my kids and all that on there. And then all the Texas stuff goes on Longhorn Pod on both of them, just Longhorn Pod for both of them. On there, and then you can catch my Texas podcast if you're looking for more. We do Tuesdays and Thursdays, the Longhorn Republic. We do kind of a game recap on Tuesdays and then a preview on Thursdays. We also like to cover we cover a lot of women's sports too, because for a long time Texas was a women's sports university when the football team was trying to figure stuff out. So check us out on there.
Yeah, you can just find me over at the Texas at the Voice of College Football channel. We do a show every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and then we jump on post game, and then we'll jump on any breaking transfer portal news or anything like that. So check us out then. And then also for the SEC show, I host that as well every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time with my guy Matt Green. He does the Georgia show as well over there, so check him out. Like I am subscribed to everyone at the Voice of College Football because this is a brand as a whole we're trying to grow, guys. So just even if you don't want to watch us, just go over there and subscribe. It really helps us out, and just continue to help grow the brand at the Voice of College Football.
Couldn't have said it better, man. With that being said, yeah, I thank you guys. I don't want to just shower you guys, but man, it's been awesome to have you guys on here. This was awesome. Hopefully, there'll be future matchups because it's hard to believe these teams have never played before, but it's exciting that we're getting it here now in the college football playoff. Two of the biggest brands in the sport right now. And obviously Texas has a long history. So I've always wanted, it's always been fun to see Clemson play, in these types of football games. I've been blessed, over the last decade, as a fan, because if you've grown up, and you thought of Clemson football, you're like, oh, this is the middling ACC program. They win 8-9 games every once in a while. They've become, they went from that to becoming one of the top, programs in the sport for a really long time.
Yeah.
And just to see them, match up with Alabama, the Alabamas and the Ohio States and the Oklahomas of the world, and now Texas, it's one of those things I never want to take for granted. So thank you guys for sharing and being a part of this. Especially since it's the 100th episode of our show. So, I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I love doing the crossover stuff with other people on the channel just because you guys know your team better than we know your team. So it's always cool to interact with you guys, and congrats on the 100th episode. And whenever you want us or need us back on, just let us know.
Absolutely, man. We're definitely going to have to do this again.
We will. Let's do some stuff in the off season. We'll blend the Clemson and the Texas channel in the off season. I know me and Jordan do the All In Show year round. I'm sure you guys will be on here year round as well. So there's plenty of time to take up in the off season that we can do crossover stuff and do some fun stuff when it comes to just big brands in college football and SEC versus ACC and all the fun debates that college football fans love to do. But thank both of you, Matthew, Gerald. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. We really do appreciate it. Look forward to the game on Saturday. I know you guys will be doing a post-game live. We will as well. So we won't make this the last time, but appreciate your time, and we'll let you guys go.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Later, guys.
See ya.
There you have it, guys. Matthew and Gerald over from the Texas Voice of College Football YouTube channel. Y'all make sure to check them out. The links are in the live chat. Gerald's own podcast as well, and the SEC channel. So you guys go check them out. Subscribe, even if you're like Matthew said, even if you're not going to engage in the content. We're trying to build the Voice of College Football network and brand. Go give them a subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you any money. So,
yeah, absolutely. Definitely go check that out. Make sure you guys are checking out the Voice of College Football Twitter account or X account, whatever you guys want to call it. I don't really care. I will always call it Twitter. But the Voice of College Football Twitter account for the best discussion, debate, and analysis without an off season. As you guys know, me and Jordan are here year round talking Clemson football, talking college football, and everything in between. So go check out, give a like, give a follow to the Voice of College Football Twitter page, X page, for all of your latest and what's going on with college football.
Yep, go give it a follow. I know some of you guys are on Twitter, so and you guys have reached out to me, so go give it a follow if you haven't already.
Absolutely. All right, Jordan, we've talked immensely about this Texas matchup coming up this Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern on TNT, by the way. What in the world?
That was one thing I wanted to bring up that we didn't.
TNT? What is going on in college football that we are subleasing the first round of the college football games to TNT? What is going on with that, man? Do better, college football. Do better. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and especially with the two brands that are going at it. I don't.
You got brands like Texas and Clemson, and you're going to put them on TNT? Really? That's what we're doing?
And they're sandwiched between an NFL game too. I don't. I really don't know what's going on here.
I don't understand what we're doing in college football. But at the end of the day, regardless, let's get into some of these coaching interviews. Clemson fans got a rare treat, I should say, when both Garrett Riley and Wes Goodwin were tabbed with media interviews heading into the Clemson-Texas matchup this Saturday. We got to hear from both defensive coordinator Wes Goodwin and offensive coordinator Garrett Riley. And Jordan, let's start off with Wes Goodwin. He was asked about why they didn't start or why they didn't play Sammy Brown in the fourth quarter of the South Carolina game. Obviously, it's the first time the media has talked to him since that game, so they were sure to bring that up. He didn't have a great answer other than they were trying to limit Lenore Sellers and his ability to run the ball. I think it had the opposite effect of that. But again, I digress. Talked about the Texas offense, how much motion they use, the shift, the pre-snap tips that they like to try to use, all the eye candy, the complex running game that this Texas offense comes with Steve Sarkisian, and then some keys to the game as far as the ability to tackle in space and bring guys down in the open field, the athleticism of an Arch Manning, and then obviously the move of a Peter Woods inside from the edge position. They've obviously moved him inside. So what were your thoughts on Wes Goodwin's interview and what he had to say leading up to this Clemson-Texas matchup this coming Saturday?
Yeah, I think, just there wasn't much to glean from it on the whole, as far as, just what he said. But there were a couple of things that really that stood out to me like a sore thumb that just really kind of bothered me. I think there's a lot of Clemson fans. The reasoning for the Sammy Brown situation in the South Carolina game, I don't know, man. I don't understand how a coach can outsmart himself in the way that Wes Goodwin did, supposedly, in that game, and his reasoning for doing so. His reasoning for doing so just appalled me. We anticipated that Lenore Sellers was going to run, so we wanted to get more speed on the field. The problem.
instead of the leading tackler.
Yeah. What just blew my mind was that your problem is you have guys that I mean, Lenore Sellers is a really good runner, but
sure,
he is he's breaking tackles. You're not bringing him down. What is it putting another DB on the field going to do if especially if a DB is having to come and make the tackle? Lenore Sellers is already in the second level anyway. What in your right mind says I need to take my leading tackler, not to mention a high school track. Okay, I don't remember Sammy Brown's actual track numbers in high school, but I know they were really good.
Sammy Brown is not a slow linebacker. He's not a guy that is physically limited when it comes to speed. He's a very fast linebacker. He's athletic.
In fact, in that same game, it was like the second play from scrimmage. He chased down Lenore Sellers when he broke that big run on South Carolina's first drive.
Right.
He chased him down. He outran him. Like, what in your right mind says that? Man, they're going to Lenore Sellers he's been really tough to bring down all day. So I'm going to take my best tackler off the field.
Yeah.
I usually don't get impassioned about stuff like that, but it is mind-boggling how
it's asinine. It's absolutely ridiculous for a defensive coordinator to sit up there and try to tell the fans that I took him off the field in order to limit Lenore Sellers' running ability by putting a nickel on the field. How did that eliminate Lenore Sellers' ability to run the ball?
Shelton Lewis, because Shelton Lewis played in the. We didn't even expect him to play.
Look at Lenore Sellers' stats in the freaking fourth quarter against Clemson, and tell me that his running ability was limited by the defense that you trotted out on the field for an entire quarter. Like, this is nothing new with Clemson, and this is what worries me so much about Clemson versus Texas is our inability to close a game. Our inability to step on the throat of the opposing team, our inability to just finish. You pissed away a lead versus Pitt. It took a last-second heroic run by Kay Klubnik, a 50-yard run, in order to secure that victory. And then you go on to, we'll skip over the Citadel game. You go on to the South Carolina game. You take a 10-point lead into the fourth quarter. If you take a 10-point lead into the fourth quarter, you should win that game. Instead, the offense does nothing. The defense goes into some sort of prevent, weird, crazy defense, and Lenore Sellers carves them up, ultimately resulting in South Carolina beating Clemson and us pissing away a 10-point lead heading into the fourth quarter. Fast forward to the ACC championship game, who you were gifted by Syracuse because they topped Miami. You head into the fourth quarter with a 17-point lead. And look, yes, you can blame the Clemson offense because the Clemson offense was absolutely abysmal. They did not move the ball. They did not capitalize on drives. They did not get the job done in the fourth quarter specifically. However, the offense should not have to score a single point in the fourth quarter to win a game when you're up by 17 heading into the fourth quarter. Although I think the offense should have done way more in the fourth quarter, they shouldn't have had to score a point for Clemson to win that game. But they did. They had to drive down and ultimately kick a game-winning 62-yard field goal in order to win that game. Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
And it just illustrates our frustrations with this team overall and how this season has played out, because it's like, man, you had the pieces. Neither one of us thought this team was a national championship caliber football team.
No.
I don't think they're there yet. But we
No,
felt like they had a
100%.
lot of talent in a lot of key spots, and they were good enough, especially with the schedule they were facing, especially to be more than what they were, especially defensively. And the fact that you have not been able to, you have not been able to get stops when you needed them, timely stops. And the fact that offensively you have not been able to sustain drives when you're in control of the football game is the fact that it hasn't gotten better over the course of the season is just really, really frustrating. Because there's so much about this team was what we hoped it would. Cade Klubnik's development was more than what we expected it would be. Just offensive line, I think we knew it was going to be we thought it could be a pretty good line and get and develop over the course of the season. And I think they've largely done that when they're healthy. They've had injuries that have hampered that. But the receivers have shown a lot of promise. Just so much about this team, there was a lot to be excited about. And the things that you hoped would be the pieces you'd be able to rely on, i.e. the defense, you haven't. And that's why you have 3 losses. And that's why you are the last team into the college football playoff. Because you not only have you squandered talent in the places that you should have been good at, but your coaches have not been able to put those players in the best opportunities and best chance to succeed. And that's the frustrating thing. I didn't want to make this a whole rant, negative rant, because we're about to play in a playoff game. But man, it just those interviews, especially the one from Wes Goodwin, was just really, really, really frustrating.
And look, we're all excited as Clemson fans to just have a shot at the college football playoff. Yeah, are we the 12 seed? Yeah, were we ranked 16? Yes, did we steal a spot? Yes, all of that is true. The important thing is that Clemson's got a shot in the 12-team playoff, and we're going to see how it works out for these Clemson Tigers when it comes to this Saturday, taking on the Texas Longhorns in Austin, Texas, 4 p.m. TNT kickoff, right? But it is somewhat troubling when you hear your defensive coordinator communicate some of the things that Wes Goodwin did during his interviews this week. And look, at the end of the day, are we excited about Clemson's opportunity? Are we optimistic about Clemson's opportunities? 100%. But at the end of the day, some of those answers were unacceptable, and you got to call them out to where they were. So let's go ahead and switch the side of the ball and talk about the offensive side of the ball and talk about Garrett Riley's interview. He was interviewed this week about the offense so far this season and kind of where his mindset is heading into the playoff and his experience with TCU going into the playoff and such. But, one of the things that he was first asked about was the offense's inability to close a game, right? Taking the foot off the gas, these fourth quarter collapses that we have seen. Obviously, the heroics of Cade Klubnik to win that game against Pitt, losing a 10-point fourth quarter lead to South Carolina, almost losing a 17-point fourth quarter lead to SMU, and just not keeping the momentum through 4 quarters. This Clemson Tigers team has yet to play 4 quarters of football the entire season. Regardless of what game you want to point to, we have yet to play 4 quarters of locked-in, complete football game. Now, can we do that against the Texas Longhorns? Absolutely. And that's probably what it's going to take in order for us to move on to get a privilege to play in Atlanta again against Arizona State, right? And Clemson is absolutely capable of that. However, when you hear your offensive coordinator say, oh, we kind of took our foot off the gas and we need to be a little bit more aggressive. I hope Garrett Riley has learned his lesson from this South Carolina game and this SMU game that we squeaked by with a win. And I hope that they keep their foot on the gas. I hope if we get an early lead against Texas, however unlikely that is, I hope if that happens that we continue to press the issue for the entire 4 quarters of the game and not get comfortable and not start playing not to lose. Because if you're playing not to lose, you're going to lose.
100%. And that's ultimately just the same things that I said about West. You're not putting your guys in the best opportunity, best chances to succeed if you are, going into a shell when you have control of the football game. And Garrett Riley basically admitting that they have not done, they did take their foot off the gas. That does not inspire confidence.
No.
And it's not what you pay him $2 million a year to be like this. Like for everything that has improved about this team offensively from last season, you're still those types of things are not acceptable. And so you got to, whatever it takes on Saturday, you need to pull out all the stops. You need to do whatever. There should be no second guessing or playing, within yourself on Saturday, because you can't afford to. You're playing. This is what the players that you recruited to your roster. These are the types of games that they came here to play in, and not just to play in, but to win. And if you're playing not to lose, that's not what they came here to do.
Right.
So
you need to finish games. You need to keep the momentum through 4 quarters. You need to step on the throat of the opponent. And one of those big things for the offensive side of the ball, Jordan, is going to be the running back room, right? We talked about a Phil Maffa, and, Dabo talked about it in his interview this week as well, is that he needs off-season surgery. Basically, Phil Maffa is not going to be any healthier until he gets surgery. So what does that say about the rest of the running back room? Well, it says that those young guys, they have to step up, starting with this Texas game. An Easy E, a Keith Adams Jr. Those guys have to step up in a massive way, because Phil Maffa can no longer carry 99% of the carries for that running back room anymore. With his shoulder in the shape that it's in, the torn labrum, the fact that he needs surgery, he cannot carry the bulk of the load anymore. So a Keith Adams Jr. And an Easy E are going to have to step up, and they're going to have to be playmakers for this Clemson Tigers team. Question is, can they do it? Right? Garrett Riley was also asked about Cade Klubnik and where his game has most improved so far this season, and he talked about Cade Klubnik's ability to create off script with his legs. And I think that's been one of Cade Klubnik's biggest strengths so far this season, and something that could potentially spell some issues for this Texas defense is Cade Klubnik's ability to create off script with his legs. I think that's going to be a very important part of this team, especially with how strong and consistent this secondary has been, how much they're going to challenge our wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. They do press coverage. They like to challenge the wide receivers. But also, Jordan, I wanted to mention, how much of a wild card do you think a Tyler Brown could be coming into this Clemson game?
Yeah, I think you need to throw some wrinkles. I mean, he's a guy that doesn't. I mean, it does not have a lot of tape on him, this season. I think, whether you involve him in kind of your extension of the run game, whether it be screens or pop passes, reverses, like I think he's a guy that could totally be a factor in that, assuming he's 100%, which, I mean, by this point, I should be. And I think they need to have some wrinkles in there for him. I don't expect him. Obviously, I don't expect him to be like the guy. I mean, you still want to get Antonio Williams and Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, Jake Brennan. You want to get those guys the ball. But I think Tyler Brown, I think people just kind of forgot how good he was last season when you really needed him to be. I think giving him some opportunities and some wrinkles against a defense that will not have seen much of him on tape is probably a good idea. So I don't know how much we'll see of him, but I would not be upset to see him out there in some certain situations.
Yeah, I think he'd be a great piece. Just maybe even a change of pace piece. Maybe a guy that just kind of changes things up for the offense and adds an extra bit of eye candy, if you will, for that dominant Texas defense that this Clemson Tiger team is going to encounter this coming Saturday. It's certainly like we said with the Texas guys that we talked with over an hour. It's going to be a chess match between the offensive and defensive coordinators for Clemson and Texas, and it's going to be interesting. So a lot of this stuff remains to be seen, but it's exciting to think about a matchup between a Texas Longhorn team and a Clemson team, both having kind of very different seasons, but similar seasons at the same time when we kind of break it down and talk about the intricacies of both teams and kind of how we got to the point where we're at now, the first round of the college football playoffs in the inaugural 12-team playoff. All right, guys, I want to talk the book release of Mark Rogers. If you guys didn't know, Mark Rogers released his first book called Disputed National Champions, College Football's Historical 1990s Reset. If you guys are college football historians, if you're looking for that super special gift for a college football fan and you couldn't quite figure out what that gift would be, I encourage you guys to purchase the Disputed National Champions, College Football's Historical 1990s Reset, written by Mark Rogers. Talks about the world of college football, the championship decisions during the 1990s, the pivotal decade that kind of reshaped all of college football in an unprecedented way, and kind of made it the college football as we know it right now. So if you're looking for that last-minute gift for that college football fan in your life, check out Disputed National Champions. You can get it on Amazon for $9.99. You can get it on the Kindle app if you have a Kindle for 99 cents. Be sure to use the Amazon link in the description of this video, and it'll kind of just give a kickback to the voice of college football and help support all the channels that are here.
Absolutely. Y'all make sure to go check it out. Great information. It's a quick read, but chock full of really insightful, perspective on how the evolution of our national championship has kind of formed in those 90s years. So yeah, go check it out. Supports the channel, supports Mark Rogers, the voice of college football brand. Leave a review as well. That would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. The transfer portal and the Clemson Tigers. Jordan, I don't know if you know this, but if you've watched any Clemson Tiger game so far this season, you have probably seen the graphic that has Dabo Swinney as the bouncer that says no entry into the Clemson Tiger Club. If you're a transfer, we don't want you. We are going to align ourselves with the service academies and be the only major college football team to not take a transfer portal outside of the service academies. Well, that all ended this past weekend when the Clemson Tigers took their very first, pivotal transfer portal player that is not a quarterback, that is not a future graduate assistant coach, so on and so forth. Dabo Swinney breaks the mold sends shockwaves through college football, if you will, and brings on Tristan Smith, wide receiver out of Southeastern Missouri, 6'5", 205 pounds, got 76 catches, 934 yards, and 6 touchdowns on the season. Big body wide receiver. Your thoughts on Clemson's official first transfer portal piece that is not a quarterback or a former player of Clemson?
I mean, when the news came out, listen, we had talked on this channel that the signs were pointing to Clemson truly not just dipping their toe, but actually taking a dive into the portal. Like with how Clemson was restructuring their NIL and all the things behind the scenes that were going on, the thought was that, okay, they might actually be serious. Right. But you know, the PTSD from the past couple of cycles of going after guys, you know, a guy here or there, but not really truly, you know, closing and not offering, you know, competitive, you know, NIL deals and not landing any of them. You were like, okay, are we going to be serious about the portal, or are we just offering guys to say we did and we tried, and it's going to be the same story that we saw the last few times they've attempted?
Right.
And, you know, just when the news dropped, it just out of nowhere. I mean, Tristan Smith was not a guy that people were tracking. Obviously, the big name that right now that people are, you know, keeping an eye on is a defensive end, Will Helt from Purdue. So when, you know, the news dropped that Clemson had just landed their first portal commitment, and it's a wide receiver from Southeast Missouri State, of all places.
What? Where?
It didn't even feel real reading the headline. It was pretty surreal. But you know, I think it's something that they obviously needed to do. I think with the departures of Troy Stellato and Noble Johnson, you have need in terms of numbers, and you know, obviously there's no telling that you don't lose another one.
Right. There may be more to come, especially in that wide receiver position group.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it was a need that they needed to fill. And I think they got a really good football player in Tristan Smith. He's, like you mentioned, 6'5", 205. He's a big body, true X receiver. Actually don't have too many of those on the team right now. It's strange. It's how much the wide receiver room has evolved, you know, where, you know, 2020, 2021, like the room was filled with
big body guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And no quick twitch, you know, separation, route running guys. We had just big body guys, and now we're kind of lacking the big bodies in the room. So good pickup.
Exactly. And so I think you're getting a physical, reliable, extremely reliable hands, you know, receiver. Like I think you can't have too many of those guys. And, you know, I think his best football is still ahead of him. I mean, he's a guy that started out as a JUCO player, only had like 400 yards his one season in JUCO, but then he takes the jump to the FCS level and has nearly 1,000 yards, and he had 130 receiving yards in a touchdown in Southeast Missouri State's playoff game. Like, he is a very physical receiver with really, really strong hands. So I think this is a good addition to the room. I'll be interested to see kind of how he factors in to the rotation. But, you know, at the very least, you know, it helps your numbers. You need a guy like that. And, you know, that's something that we've been banging the drum for Clemson to do. It's like, okay, you don't have to always, you know, not every team is going out here and landing just the high impact guys. You are able to get guys for depth purposes. You know, not all of these guys are out here looking for a massive payday.
People should follow the path that Cam Ward took to be ultimately Miami's quarterback and a Heisman finalist. Just go look where he started.
Yeah, man. Incarnate Word.
Yeah, it's not always the big name guy. It's not always the guy that had 40 plus offers coming out of high school. Sometimes it's the guy that took the road less traveled and took the JUCO route and bet on himself and ultimately proved to be an elite athlete and now he steps into the FCS level and proves himself as almost 1,000-yard receiver and now he steps up and now he's a Clemson wide receiver and he adds a much needed body type in the room, I think, with his 6'5", 205 frame. Just kind of a big body guy, a boundary guy that can go up and get the football and has strong hands and the ability to go high point the ball. I think that's going to be important for a Clemson room as it evolves into next season and as we probably lose, another wide receiver or two as the transfer portal goes and as we move on into spring. And it's not the only guy. This is always what we, me and you, when we talked about the transfer portal and we talked about it when it came to Clemson, this is what we envisioned when it came to Clemson and dabbling in the transfer portal was pulling these type of guys out of the transfer portal. And that's not the only guy. Obviously, edge position is a position of need for the Clemson Tigers. We had Will Helt on post, edge out of Purdue, 6'6", 265, had 26 run stops in 2024. A guy that saw his kind of production diminish at a place in Purdue, so he's looking for a new opportunity. What are your thoughts on Clemson's ability to land him? And then if they don't, do you see them pivoting into looking at other edge position guys that could complement the current room that we have?
Yeah, I think Clemson, first and foremost, I think they did a good job on his visit. He was here for, better part of 2 to 3 days on campus for his visit. He's also visited LSU and A&M. I think it's going to come down to Clemson or A&M. He's gone home and he's mulling his options right now. Mm-hmm. But I do think Clemson is serious about adding somebody to the defensive end group, and I think they definitely need to. And they're not just offering a guy that they it's like, okay, we'll just plug him in and he'll be a depth piece. This is a guy they want to factor into the rotation and potentially start for next year. And I think Will Helt showed enough this season as a guy that could be that guy. He showed a lot of twitch and athleticism for a Purdue defense that wasn't particularly good, but he was really disruptive. So I think that, yeah, he's going to be he would be a really massive addition. But if you don't land him, I think Clemson is serious, and they have been casting a wider net as far as their portal options. They're still open to adding potentially another receiver. I believe
yeah,
so as well.
I definitely see them doing that. Yeah.
So it's been very pleasing to see the steps that have been taken as far as Clemson's portal efforts and just their strategy. They're having, they're not just finding 3 or 4 guys that they like at one position and then giving up. They've been in contact with a lot of guys reportedly. They've been keeping it under wraps, which I think with Clemson's situation and how they do things is probably the best move. They want to work these things out kind of in silence and lock them in. The Will Helt thing was kind of a leak. Clemson didn't really want that to get out, but his agent reported it, and it just kind of happened that way. So, but I think just with how Clemson goes about doing things, like the portal additions are going to be surprises, kind of like
right. Yeah, they're going to come out of nowhere. Like a Tristan Smith. Nobody even knew that he was on Clemson's campus.
Yeah,
nobody had any idea he was on Clemson's campus, and before they knew, he was basically already committed to the Tigers, already signed to the Tigers, and everything was locked up before the media even knew. You mentioned the leak with Helt, but that's kind of how Clemson's going to do it, just like they do it with high school recruiting. It's all behind doors. It's all, kind of tight-lipped and kept under wraps. And they're going to continue to do it that way. But it shows that they've taken a different approach this season when it comes to the transfer portal, as opposed to last season when they went after 3 or 4 offensive linemen and kind of slow played it, similar to how they do high school recruiting, which was never going to work in the transfer portal world. So obviously Clemson's taking a very different approach to that. They've already landed wide receiver Tristan Smith. Maybe they'll end up landing Will Hilt out of Purdue, or maybe some other edge guy, and probably, another 1 or 2 transfer portal guys. I could see Clemson ending up with, 3 to 4 transfer portal guys in this cycle when all is said and done, at some very key positions. You mentioned wide receiver. Obviously, the edge position is a position of need, potentially linebacker as well, and maybe even safety. We'll see how it all shakes out in the end. Who declares to the NFL draft, who doesn't, who decides to transfer out and who doesn't. That'll obviously determine what kind of positions and potential that's available on this Clemson Tiger roster going forward.
Yep, and the plan, and the great thing is they plan to continue to have feelers out into the spring portal window. So they're going to continue to evaluate the roster and kind of where things sit, and they're going to have guys. They're going to be in contact with guys. Like that's the thing, that it's like, okay, you don't have to just lock everybody in immediately, but they have, and some guys aren't going to wait. But if you cast a wider net, you're gonna you're gonna leave yourself with options. Like that's the thing that they didn't do in previous cycles. They did not. They found a couple of guys and really tried to they really focused their efforts on them. But then when they committed elsewhere, it's like, oh well, okay, now we invested all these resources into them, but now we don't have anybody else. We don't have anybody else on the back burner. So they've been a lot smarter about their portal strategy this go around, and that's been encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and look, guys, if you want to try to get a little bit of friendly wagers in on who Clemson could and could not land in the transfer portal season, and the possibilities of how many they could land, check out the Voice of College Football Bets, and we'll be right back.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.
All right, guys, you heard from Mark Rogers there. Go check out the Voice of College Football Bets for all of your betting needs. I guarantee you guys won't regret it. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Check out the Clemson Live on all your favorite audio streaming platforms. Just search Clemson Live. All of our long form content is on there. You can listen to it, and that would be greatly appreciated. Make sure you guys are reviewing, and subscribing over there as well. And to turn the page to the last segment of the night, Jordan, the fan favorite BYOG or Sell Playoff Edition has officially kicked off. We're going to go back and forth with BYOG or Sell, and then we'll obviously kick it to the comment section for their BYOG or Sell. And then we got a special announcement for the 100th episode and opening up the phone lines for the call-in show. So, Jordan, I'll let you go first. What's your very first BYOG or sell for tonight and the inaugural 12-team playoff?
All right, BYOG or sell. The leading the team's leader in total carries is Cade Klubnik. Am I muted?
The team leader.
Okay, you got it.
And carries is Cade Klubnik. I'll buy. Because I think that's probably going to be Clemson's best running play is Cade Klubnik, whether it be a called run or creating outside of the pocket when a play breaks down. I think that's going to be Clemson's best chance in order to have productive plays on the ground. So I'll buy. I got something in the same theme that I wrote down before the show started, Jordan. So BYOG or sell a rushing touchdown by someone not named Phil Maffa or Cade Klubnik.
Oh, that's a good one.
A rushing touchdown by someone not named Phil Maffa or Cade Klubnik. BYOG or sell?
Are we even going to have a rushing touchdown in this? I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I'm gonna sell, but that I don't know. That so much of that is situational, and if you do get into a goal line situation, the way this team has handled goal line plays this year, so many times it's felt like it's Cade Klubnik, finding somebody in the end zone in the passing game. It doesn't feel like we've really just lined it up and punched it in that many times this year. And with the running back situation you're in right now, our tendencies don't tell me that they do that. So I'm a sell, but there's a possibility if they decide to actually use Keith Adams the way that they recruited him. Who knows? Maybe you see him. Who knows? Or maybe it is David Azumame. Who knows? But I'm going to sell.
Yeah, I'm going to sell as well. I don't think it happens. They're a very good rush defense. We talked about how elite this Texas defense is. And look, I know that they have not played the best of or the most elite of offenses, but with Clemson's struggles and with Phil Maffa's struggles and just the consistency as far as rushing the ball for this Clemson Tigers team, I just don't think so. So I'm going to sell as well.
All right. BYOG or sell. Quinn Ewers throws 2 or more picks in this game.
Buy. I'm going to buy. One, because Texas has turned the ball over 7 times in the past 3 games. Our defense has been very opportunistic when it comes to creating turnovers. Our offense has not always been great at capitalizing on those turnovers. So that'll definitely be a telltale sign of if we are able to compete in this game. But I do think this Clemson defense creates multiple turnovers in this game. And I would not be surprised if it's Quinn Ewers throwing for multiple picks. So I will buy that. One, because it's a key to Clemson's game plan. It's a key to Clemson being able to compete and win this game. And 2, it's something that Quinn Ewers and this Texas team has demonstrated to put the ball in harm's way, whether that be fumbles or interceptions. But it very well could be interceptions. So I will buy.
All right. You're up.
All right. Last one for me before we turn it over to the comment section. BYOG or sell. Tyler Brown goes for 50 plus.
Ooh, 50?
50.
Yeah, I'm a sell on that one. That's too. We haven't seen him factor that much. I mean, I could see a world where he adds like a 20, 30 receiving yards. 50 means he's getting either has a big play or he's actually a major factor in the receiving game. And I'm not ready to go there with. They have not put him out there enough for me to feel like. But who knows? That would be like I said, that would be a tendency breaker.
Right. It'd be a guy to throw out there that they don't expect. And we all know Tyler Brown's capability when he's on the field. He is absolutely electric. He's a game breaker. He's a guy that can bust the defense wide open. And I know this Texas team and their defense, and they don't give up explosive plays, specifically in the passing game. But we do have some guys. I don't think that as much as this Texas team has not given up explosive passing plays and has really bottled up offenses this year, I don't think this Texas team has seen a wide receiver core quite to the level that this Clemson Tiger team is. I mean, you talk about an Antonio Williams, a Brian Wesco, a TJ Moore, a Tyler Brown that is back and healthy, a Cole Turner that can take the top off of a defense, a Jake Brenningstool that is just a matchup nightmare for your safeties and your linebackers. There's places where they can be challenged. And not that they won't rise to the challenge, they very well may. But I think this crew is specifically inclined to maybe challenge them a little bit more than they have been so far this season. How it works out for the Tigers remains to be seen. But we got some dudes at wide receiver and tight end.
Yep, and they're gonna have to make plays, man.
But
like you said, I think
we can't become one dimensional. So that's the other key.
And that's the thing. If there's you said it. I mean, that's one thing that gives me some positive feelings is that Texas has not played receivers receiving group that quite has the level of athleticism and twitch and ability that Clemson's receiver room does.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but they're gonna have to win their one-on-ones because those Texas DBs are they're not scrubs and they're not they're not
and they're going to be physical.
Just products of playing not a ton of great offenses. They are legitimately talented and well coached.
Absolutely, so. They're going to be physical. They're going to play press man. They're going to challenge these Clemson wide receivers 1,000%. But there is a lot of talent out there for them to worry about on this Clemson Tiger offense. So we'll see how it shakes out. But let's go ahead and get into the comment section. Let's grab 3 to 4 of the BYOG ourselves, and then we will try to get some people to come on via the StreamYard link that we're going to post in the live chat. Hopefully you guys will come on, hang out with us for a bit. Tell us about how you heard about the show. Tell us how long you've been listening. Ask me and Jordan some questions. Just kind of hang out with us and celebrate this 100th episode of the All In Show. So, Jordan, go ahead and grab 3 to 4 of those BYOG ourselves, and then we'll try to get this call-in portion rolling.
Yep. Let's see. Dylan with a BYOG ourselves says Clemson scores 2 passing touchdowns with Klubnik rushing for a touchdown. Ooh, okay. So I picked us to score 17, so I'm gonna have to sell on the total of 3 touchdowns by Klubnik. But I do think they get 2. I do think he gets 2 passes. But yeah, you did say adding the rushing touchdown, making it 3. I'm a sell.
I mean, look, and that's a tall task. Like, keep in mind, this Texas defense has given up 4 passing touchdowns all season.
Yeah.
So to give up 2 in a game would be extremely
You do something that nobody else has done, that's for sure.
I mean, that would be an accomplishment in and of itself. So BYOG or sell Cole Turner rushing touchdown. Yeah, I'm a sell. I mean, I could see them doing it. Maybe they got some sort of wide receiver reverse or some kind of pop pass to Cole Turner to try to be an extension of the run game. I could see them doing that to try to get some semblance of a run game going, specifically if a Phil Maffa is not doing well or just that base running game is not having a lot of success against this Texas defense. I could see them going to something like that. So, I mean, it's a possibility, but I'm not willing to kind of bet on it. If you
rushing but I do think you'll see a wrinkle like that where they get Cole Turner in space, but it might. I don't know if they're going to score on it. Yeah. Mr. 2X says BYG or sell Williams and Wesco will have a combined 100 yards receiving. That's a good one. I'm going to buy.
They have to.
Yeah.
If Clemson's going to be in this game, they have to.
Yeah. You're gonna see K. Klubnik throw the ball a lot. I think
if they don't, Clemson gets blown out. Yeah. Clemson's got to have the ability to hit on passing plays and still be balanced in a sense when it comes to the rushing. If you become one-dimensional against this Texas defense, they're going to feast because they're going to drop back. They're going to keep everything in front of them. They're not going to allow Clemson to be explosive. And they're just going to rally to the ball and tackle. And it's going to be a long day for the Tigers. So you got to have some semblance of a running game. And, those two guys got to go over 100 yards combined if we're going to keep this game close and have a chance to win it in the end, hopefully.
Let's see. Tig says BYG or sell Clemson actually plays its first 4-quarter game of the year. I can't buy that. Well, it depends. I guess it depends because on what you mean. But if they play good, sound, competitive football for 4 quarters, but they lose,
I hope so.
That'll count. But because
I hope so, but I can't bank on that.
No.
This Clemson team is proven time and time again to have the inability to pull away when they have the opportunity. They also have the inability to clamp down on the defensive side of the ball when they have the ability to shut an offense down. So I can't bet on that. I got to sell. But again, like I said before, if Clemson hopes to keep this game close and ultimately have a chance to win in the fourth quarter, they got to play 4 complete quarters because, this defense could ultimately put Clemson's offense in a box, and it could be bad. So,
let's see a few more. Let's do a couple more. Wet Sox, BYG or sell Ashton Hampton logs more snaps than Jaden Lucas. I'm going to buy that.
Buy.
Yeah, I think I'd buy that. I think with this matchup, I don't think there's any reason to be scared of putting your freshman out there because you need your talent like that. I think Sammy Brown needs to play. Ashton Hampton needs to play a bunch that. Yeah, Ashton Hampton is long, rangy, and against receivers like Matthew Golden and you need that.
You got nothing to lose in this game. Ultimately, you lose, you go home, the season's over. So pull out all the stops. Ashton Hampton, I think, is your most physical corner. He's more gifted than Jay Lou. Not that nothing against Jay Lou or not knocking him in any way, but Ashton Hampton's just more physically gifted than him, and probably gives you a better chance at bottling up some of those wide receivers and some of that speed that you have on the Texas side of that offense. So He's shown the ability to really lock down some wide receivers. He's shown the ability to recover quickly and cover ground and break up passes and not allow quarterbacks to be very successful against him. So, yeah, I think he's probably your best bet over there. Opposite.
Avion Terrell.
Yeah, Avion Terrell. Thank you. Opposite Avion Terrell. So, yeah, I expect him to play majority of the snaps against Texas.
All right. Like Mike says, BYOG or sell. Somebody other than TJ Parker records a sack for Clemson. I will buy. One thing that we didn't really hit on a ton is that the one thing that this Texas offense has struggled with, Quinn Ewers has struggled with in particular, when he gets blitzed and he's pressured, he has not been particularly great this year.
We got some pass rushers. As much as these ends don't set the edge well, you do got Lawson that can absolutely rush the passer.
Yeah.
And if Quinn Ewers can't get out of the way, that guy can wreak some havoc in the backfield, opposite a TJ Parker.
But I think it's going to come from the linebacker position. That's what I truly think. I think so, like a Sammy Brown, I think is a good bet to get a sack in this game. And it's because I think that Clemson, they have not shown the ability this year to really get pressure with just sending their front four. I think they do need to blitz in this game. And I as talented as Texas is up front on the offensive line, I think that is the way you're going to have to get pressure. So I think, someone other than I think Sammy Brown or one of the Sammy Brown's my first pick, but I could see any of the linebackers potentially getting a sack in this game because you're going to have to put your corners and on islands at times in this game because I think ultimately getting pressure on Quinn Ewers is the path to success.
The part that scares me about this Texas offense is I could see Clemson's defense bottling them up in this first half, and then come second half, you got Arch Manning out there, and he's
oh god, yeah. Well, I'm
going
to live in the
athletic and creating outside of the pocket and that sort of thing. Like I could see that being a thing.
I do not want Arch Manning's legacy game to come against. Please, I want to live in the reality where Quinn Ewers is the quarterback for
Me too. Me too. I want Arch Manning to sit on the sideline and rot for at least another game. But I mean, if this offense is struggling and this Clemson defense is bottling them up, it's a win or go home. Like, all bets are off. I could certainly see an Arch Manning coming out there, and that's been one of the things that have challenged this Clemson defense so much this season is an athletic quarterback, and then you bring a guy in like that who's not only athletic, but he can throw the ball as well. Let's just hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, let's hope. All right. Gambini XL, kind of on the same theme. He said BYOG or sell. Sammy Brown has 2 tackles for loss.
Oh, I'll buy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That dude's all over the field. He's an absolute animal. He'll definitely have 2 tackles for loss.
All right, last one.
He'll lead the team in tackles even if he only plays 3 quarters.
Yeah, that tends to be how it works with.
Yes. He don't need 4 quarters to lead the team in tackles.
Yep, you see him flying over the field, all around the field, making plays, and then you're like, oh, all right, let's take him out.
Yeah, let's take him out. Yeah, he's tackling.
He's doing too much. He's showing up our 2 seniors. Graham Turnbull, the last one. He says BYG or sell. Sammy Brown plays every snap. Yeah, I'm selling that. even though I wouldn't be upset if he did. They've shown that they will take him out in a heartbeat whenever they feel like it. So even if it doesn't necessarily make sense. All right, let's get to some of you guys' regular comments for a little bit. Of course, the StreamYard link is
the 100th episode of the All In Show. Thank you guys so much for being here. We got 48 people still, Jordan, in the live chat. We're almost 2.5 hours in already. This is a special episode of the All In Show. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep chopping up with you guys in the comment section. But if you guys want to join the show, ask us questions, tell us how you heard about the show, tell us how long you've been listening to the show, whatever the case may be. This is our 100th episode of the All In Show. It's a super special one to us. And we're super thankful for each and every one of you that are here still hanging out with us. So if you would like to join the show, click the StreamYard link, come in here. You don't have to come on camera if you don't want to. But you can come in here and chat it up with us for a couple minutes, and that'll be greatly appreciated. If not, we'll just dive into the comment section and chop it up with you guys like we always do.
All right, let's do it. Let's see. Dylan gets in his score prediction. He thinks 35-31 Clemson pulling the dub. Man, if this is a 35-31 game,
whoo! I don't know if it gets that high scoring.
Man, that would be something. But it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, it's certainly within the realm of possibility. But I don't think it gets quite that high.
I'd wonder how that looks because it's both especially with the defenses that are playing in this game and
maybe some turnovers, some defensive scoring.
Yeah. Potentially. But I like the pick. Let's I certainly like that one better than my score prediction.
Yeah.
Let's see. Y'all really he also says Sammy needs to be the spy in this game. I don't think you need to spy Quinn Ewers. So I think that's the good thing is you're not facing a super mobile quarterback. Well, at least starting quarterback. If Arch Manning gets in the game, all bets are off. But I think it'll allow you to play more free, and that's a aspect of the game that you're not really going to have to worry about too much. Quinn Ewers has he's used his legs at times, but that's not his game. So you'll take if he starts scrambling on you, I mean, so be it. You definitely would rather that than him hitting big plays down the field to DeAndre Moore or Matthew Golden or any of their other talented Ryan Wingo or any of their other talented wide receivers.
Yeah.
Graham says he can't wait to play Makuba. Yeah, that's going to be that's going to be really interesting and a matchup that I think a lot of people are going to be watching. Obviously, with how things ended and kind of his struggles while he was here, and and his comments after leaving, there'll be some. There's probably going to be some chippiness on both sides potentially. We'll see.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. I mean, it was said that as soon as Texas saw that they were playing Clemson, they called it the Makuba Bowl and all of that stuff. And there's the connections between obviously Cade Klubnik and his old Westlake teammates who are playing defense for the Texas Longhorns, and a lot of crossover, a lot of guys coming home for Clemson. Obviously, and so all of that stuff is certainly in play. Tons of great storylines and stuff that honestly really won't matter when it comes to after the coin toss and the ball snapped and they line up on the field, that stuff won't matter. But it's certainly fun to talk about, and hopefully we best our old buddy Andrew Makuba. Wish him the best, but not in this game.
Yeah, not in this game. I hope he plays terrible.
Hope he gets burned. Hope he misses every tackle. All of the above.
Tiger Tom says, bottom line is defense almost gave the game away against SMU. I thought that second half defensive strategy just made no sense when it's obviously the wrong answer, and Goodwin just drove on. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of and it wasn't even really, the second half. The fourth quarter was just a really strange. It was a failure on both sides of the ball at picking each other up. But yeah, that was frustrating watching that defensive performance. Just that they just picked you apart play after play after play. It wasn't even like they were hitting a ton of explosives. They were just eating you up. Underneath, in the short to intermediate routes, and you just couldn't get off the field. Kevin Jennings did a good job of extending. I mean, I thought Kevin Jennings played a phenomenal football game.
Yeah.
So I got to give him a ton of credit there. But yeah, you should never give up 17 points in a quarter. No matter how you slice it, that was not acceptable. David with the kind words. He says, "Congrats on the 100th episode. I've watched since last year. Followed even after you guys changed the nights." Yeah, we went through a little bit of turbulence, I guess, in terms of the schedule. But we've really settled in on Wednesday nights. Hopefully that we don't foresee any schedule changes. Of course, we'll always let you know. But thank you so much for being a loyal listener and being around as long as you have. We've had a lot of you guys become regulars, and it's been cool to just see our audience grow over the last few seasons. So
it's been so cool, man. Like it's funny because like you guys are in here and commenting in the live chat section, and you guys come chop it up with us each and every week in each and every episode. But 3 years ago, me and Jordan were you guys in a YouTube comment section, talking about college football, and here we are being content creators and the voice of college football and the Clemson channel. So it's super humbling and awesome that we get to do this. And thank you so much for being a loyal supporter, David, and sticking with us through all of our various changes that we've gone through because of life and jobs and other responsibilities that we have outside of this. But always super thankful for this channel and this show that we get to do, and it's always fun to come here and talk college football.
100%, man. You nailed it. Manuel says we got to make Wesco the focal point of the offense versus Texas. Well, I mean, I think Wesco absolutely needs to have his. He needs to make his plays when they're there, because I mean, he brings a level of speed and twitchiness, like we said, that I don't think Texas has seen a lot of this year. And him coupled with Antonio Williams and TJ Moore, I think that you're going to need them. You're going to need those guys to make plays, like they're, especially in the two freshmen, catch the football. I mean, that's one thing that at different points in the season they have struggled with is they've gotten open, and then they didn't come down with the football. Especially TJ in recent weeks. So like you need those guys to make you can't have the misses. Like, if Kate gives you a ball,
Wesco's got to be that game breaker, right? He's got to be the guy that takes the top off the defense. And he's shown the ability to get separation and all that, but they're going to challenge him at the line of scrimmage. They're a physical group, and they're going to challenge him, and he's going to have to get off of that press man coverage and have the ability to break the top off the defense, and then they'll back off of him a little bit if he shows the ability to get off of that press man and get over top of them. And then they'll be a little bit more leery of trying to challenge him at the line of scrimmage. But that's something that he struggled with at portions in time this season, and maybe something he's got a little bit better with as the back of the season has come. But he's going to be a pivotal guy, as well as the rest of them. But
yep,
yeah,
he's gonna. You got to take your shots with him in this game.
When this Clemson offense has been at their best this season, they've been explosive. So in some way, shape, or form, this Clemson offense will not win this game without creating some explosive plays. I'm not saying you got to have 10 explosive plays, but this Clemson offense has to have the ability to create 3, 4, 5 explosive plays in this game in order to keep this defense honest and kind of stay on schedule, right? So
100%. Wet Sock says, did y'all do first round predictions yet? Yeah, we did. You can rewind on we did it with the Texas guys in the first hour, or I guess technically it wasn't the first hour by the time we got to predictions. So early into the second hour.
right.
You can, and we'll have timestamps after
about an hour 10, hour 12 into
probably
the
about
show.
there.
We
have the banner up, so you'll see it.
Yeah, we did our Texas Clemson predictions.
Yeah.
As far as the predictions for the other games, we did not do those.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't. Yeah. If he's talking about other games, we did not do that.
Quickly though, I think we could do it real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Tennessee, Ohio State. I'm taking the upstate. I'm taking the upset. Tennessee.
Upstate. Yeah. Well, I like the upstate too.
Yeah, upstate is the best. But I'm taking the upset Tennessee. Who you got in the Tennessee, Ohio State?
Yeah, I think I'm with you, man. I just, I think Tennessee is going to be able to run the football. They've been the better team this year at running the football. And yeah. I don't know, but it is also hard to bet against Ohio State in a playoff situation when they're not playing Michigan. Ryan Day has a lot of pressure on him to win. I think if he loses this game, that could be kind of tricky.
There's a possibility, that he's the first college football coach that goes to the playoffs and gets fired in the same season, which is absolutely wild. But I could see it happening.
Yeah, there is a lot of there's a good portion of that fan base that's ready.
There's some Ohio State fans, granted, how many of them are actual players and influencers and decision makers when it comes to that program? I guess that remains to be seen. We'll have to see if Tennessee ends up winning the game, and then I guess we'll find out how those real decision makers feel about Ryan Day. But I'm going to take Tennessee with the upset with that, and then Penn State, SMU.
Yep.
As much as Penn State always chokes, I feel like they're going to get the job done. I don't know if SMU has enough to get the job done against Penn State. Plus, what a crazy atmosphere to roll into. That's one of my bucket list places to go view a college football game. Hopefully, when I do get to go view a college football game there, it's one of the Penn State iconic whiteouts. That's one of the things that I want to see before it's all said and done as a college football fan. But I think I'll take Penn State there.
Yeah, my brain is telling me Penn State, but I'm going to pick with what I want to happen. I'm going to root for SMU in this thing because at this point, I've never been a conference homer, and especially since SMU is a newcomer. But they have been a fun story, and it would be really cool to dispel a lot of the narratives about the ACC if SMU were to win.
I would love, man, how wild would it be for Ohio State and Penn State to both get knocked out in the first round. And then,
oh man, the narratives about the Big Ten. Oh man,
it'd be spiraling.
Yeah.
People be getting in every comment section ever to try to figure out how to explain that away. So that'd be awesome. But I'll pick Penn State there, and then you got Notre Dame and Indiana.
Yep.
I got Notre Dame.
Yeah, me too.
Going away in that game, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like the matchup for Indiana. Notre Dame has been, despite the Northern Illinois loss, I think Notre Dame has quietly been one of the best teams. Yeah. They've been playing at a really high level defensively. They're going to prove. I think they're going to have Indiana is going to have a lot of problems with Notre Dame defensively.
Yeah, I think they've proven themselves since that loss early in the season. So. Yeah, I think they win that one going away. I don't think it's particularly close. So, and then we've obviously already given our picks with the Clemson Texas game. By the way, spoiler alert: we both picked Texas to win.
Yeah, unfortunately,
begrudgingly.
Do think it's going to be competitive. So.
Yes.
My boy John is here. He says, "Hey everyone." Good to see you, John Diadamo. If you guys don't know, longtime, supporter of the Voice of College Football, and now he is a big-time contributor over on the Michigan Voice of College Football YouTube channel. So y'all go check him out. John is one of my day ones on here.
Yeah.
So we go way back, and he even mentions it. I think later. Oh, let me see. Yeah, first season of College Football After Dark. We were chopping it up late night on Sunday nights after every college football weekend. Yeah. And now we're both, contributing to on our respective team channels. It's really cool, man. So thank you so much for joining us. And y'all make sure to go check John. Let me see if I can get the link. Y'all support all of our Voice of College Football YouTube channels.
Yeah.
John, especially, channel, really great work. Him and TJ. Are awesome at what they do. So y'all check them out.
Yeah, absolutely. They've helped us out a ton on this channel and given us pointers and stuff that we can do to make our show better. So shout out to John, shout out to TJ, those guys over there on the Michigan channel. Definitely go support them. Even if you're not a Michigan fan, just go over there, give them a like, give them a subscribe. And they got some great content over there. So it's pretty crazy. We were all originally just listeners and commenters in comment sections, and now we're all content creators for our particular teams and our particular channels, and it's crazy how that stuff works out. But super grateful for the opportunity that Mark gives us. So shout out Mark Rogers for giving all of us the opportunities that we have with the Voice of College Football and our individual team channels and what we get to do because of the platform that he's created. So I think we'd be remiss without mentioning Mark Rogers and the trust and the opportunity that he gives us all to do what we do. So with that said, go check out the main channel, the Voice of College Football, and give that a follow and a like if you have not already.
I'm just getting the link in here. Hold on. There we go. All right. Moving on. Gambini says, it may seem crazy to me, crazy to some, but I really feel Cade is the better quarterback in this game. I don't think that's crazy at all.
No.
I do think Clemson is the better quarterback in this matchup. Problem is
I would take Cade, yeah.
Yeah. The problem is the other, 21 starters for both teams, makes that the picture a little bit muddier. And so that's ultimately, but Cade, I think, is ultimately going to be the X factor in whether or not this game is a win for Clemson or not. And, it sounds obvious, but I think just even more so in this game because, you're going to have to make some plays off script and when things break down. Tig says, "Well, Dad will go to the portal for a new OC in DC." I mean, hey,
that remains to be seen.
First time for everything, I guess.
Maybe. We'll see.
A coaching transfer portal would be something.
That's funny.
Dylan asks if Clemson is a good question. If Clemson wins this game, who will be the MVP? I think it's got to be Cade Klubnik.
Cade.
Yeah.
I think in order for Clemson to win this game, Cade has to play probably his best game as a Clemson Tiger.
Yeah.
I really do. With that defense and the way that they're able to eliminate people's passing game and our current situation as far as the running game goes, with Phil Maffa being banged up and just question marks of how effective Keith Adams Jr. and Eazy-E can be. I think Cade is the catalyst for either a very successful night for the Clemson Tigers or it gets ugly.
Yeah.
So, Cade will 1,000% be the MVP, in my opinion, if Clemson wins this game.
Yeah. It seems like the easy answer, but in this matchup, I think it's going to fall. A lot of Clemson success.
I just don't see any other way that Clemson wins the game other than Cade just balling out.
Jason says, "I want to see Brennan get the ball more." Yeah, and I think
don't we all?
It's a two-way street. I think Jake he needs to do a better job of making his presence known, and I think there have been in some plays that he just has not given the same level of effort that he does in others. And that's, we had, this was a problem with Jordan Leggett. If you guys remember when he was at Clemson, as great of a tight end as he was, I mean, he took plays off. And I see that sometimes with Jake, and he needs to be locked in and dialed in for this one. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, he's going to be, because he's going to have to be a safety blanket for Cade. He's going to have to be one of the go-to guys. Let's see. Sports Talk with Austin. What's up, man? Another one of my day ones. And our resident Louisville fan, he says, "What's up, guys? Good to see you, Austin." I didn't see what. Do you know what bowl game Louisville's playing in? I forgot.
I do not know.
I'm gonna look this up real quick.
I do not know what game.
Oh, okay. They're in the Sun Bowl against Washington. Okay, that'll be interesting. Not two teams I would expect to be paired together, but we'll see what happens. But best of luck to your Cards in the bowl game. Graham asks, "Do you guys like the Texas matchup, or would you have preferred playing Notre Dame or Penn State?" I think from a familiarity standpoint, like. Or just playing a new team, like the Texas matchup is obviously really cool. Never played them before. From a matchup standpoint, like just X's and O's matchup standpoint, Texas would not have been one of my ideal choices. No, I definitely think I would have felt better about traveling to Penn State or even. Playing in South Bend, kind of, I don't know. It was just this team has not done all that well when they've gone up there as of late. But I
think I would have picked Penn State.
I would have picked Penn State. I think Penn State would have been my ideal.
If I had my choice of where Clemson would travel to, although it's an absolute insane environment and all of that stuff. I just think that would have probably been Clemson's best shot to get out of the first round.
Yeah.
You look at this Texas team, and a lot of what they do well is kind of counterintuitive to what Clemson does well. It's not the greatest matchup for this Clemson Tigers team, although I think Clemson can still make it competitive. It's certainly not the best matchup we could have drawn in the first round. But that's how it goes when you're the 12th seed. You're supposed to get a bad matchup when you're the 12th seed. So here we are.
Dylan asked a good question. He says, how much time do y'all have to spend after the live to edit videos, etc.? Well, that's the good thing. We have someone that does it for us. So
that's the beauty of being a part of the Voice of College Football brand and everything that Mark Rogers provides for us. We do our live shows, and he's got somebody that cuts them up for us and posts them separately for us. So,
although we do some of the recruiting videos that I've done, like those are ones that I edit. And
we do have ones that we do outside of that, but that's the beauty of being a part of this brand and the opportunities that we have is there are people in place that kind of help us out with that because most of us, if not all of us, have other full-time jobs that we do outside of what we do here on the team channels. Although, one day maybe it'll turn into a full-time gig, and that'd be great for all of us. But
be a dream come true. It'd be cool.
Absolutely.
Let's see. John says we chop it up and have a good time. Maybe next year we finally get to do the Michigan Clemson playoff crossover content. Yeah, man, we've been waiting on it, and Clemson hasn't held up their end of the bargain up until recently, so blame us for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be dope. Another blue blood program that we would be playing for.
Yeah, get Texas and then Michigan next year and back-to-back seasons. Getting shots at the OG blue blood programs of college football, that'd be amazing.
And plus, we owe you guys a little bit because y'all been taking a couple of our recruits. I don't care.
Y'all need to chill out with all that now. Getting a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
Y'all throwing y'all's northern money around down here, and we don't like it.
Yeah, I don't particularly care for that, buddy.
I don't particularly. You keep that stuff up north.
Oh, and we've got the man himself, the voice of college football in the building. With an awesome message. He says, Jordan and Tiger Ball, congratulations on your 100th episode. So grateful to have you guys on the team at the Voice of College Football. You guys continue to kill it. Well, thank you so much, Mark. And, again, we continue to be humbled by you just how graciously you've been accepted us into the network and how you've supported us in this channel. And just awesome to be able to give back and continue to grow this brand. And here's to a continued partnership. You've been the best. So thank you so much for the words of support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for giving us this platform in order to talk about Clemson football. On the road to 6,000 subscribers, and eventually
yes, we are.
Eventually we'll get to 10,000. Eventually we'll grow this thing into something crazy. And just glad we get to be a small part of the Voice of College Football Network. And grateful to you for the opportunity.
100%. Let's do a couple more. Excuse me. That is still that lingering cough, man. The flu really gets you.
That flu had you jacked up for like 2 weeks, man.
Yeah, man. I felt like death, man.
Yeah.
I'm still getting stuff out of my system, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a nightmare, but I'm making it through. Alex says, who do you think RB1 for Texas will be? Well, I mean, based on what the Texas guy, they feel pretty good about Jadon Blue potentially getting a lot of the opportunities, but they kind of rotate because they've had injuries. Obviously, CJ Baxter being the big name that got hurt at the beginning of the season. They have Travion Wisner, who also has played a big factor in their run game at multiple points this season. I think they're gonna split carries between those two guys mainly. They also have the true freshman Jarrett Gibson that's gotten a little bit of burn at times, but I think it's going to be Blue and Wisner. I think you're going to see the most.
Yeah, the bulk of the carries this season have gone to Wisner. 176 carries for 863 yards. And then Blue has gotten 112 carries for 564 yards. So that's kind of their two main guys. And then, you mentioned Gibson and 68 carries for 342 yards for him. So he's kind of bringing up the rear there. But, yeah, those Wisner and Blue are definitely going to be their 1-2 punch in this game.
All right.
Hopefully TJ Parker can force his 7th fumble of the year.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
Shout out to Matthew for that tidbit of information that maybe Blue likes to cough up the ball a little bit. So
yeah. You might see Clemson try to rip it out when they see
you're
him
on the clock, TJ Parker. You're on the clock.
Tiger Tom says, I've long been surprised that Dabo didn't recognize Clemson's marketability to the transfer portal in terms of the Clemson brand. Well, I don't think it's the fact that he didn't realize it, because there have been some names over the years that have reached out to Clemson as far as, hey, you guys have a spot. Ultimately, would they have landed some of them? Because probably not. I don't think Clemson was as equipped to meet some of the NIL demands that some of these players would have had. But the interest has never been the question with Clemson as far as the portal is concerned. It's been, well, are you going to be able to offer the competitive NIL?
It's the money. It's absolutely the money. I think Clemson as a program, as a brand, that Paul recognition throughout the country is unwavering. And Clemson's brand certainly permeates the entire country when it comes to being recognized. But at the end of the day, it's also about what kind of NIL package you can offer. And that's kind of been where Clemson has, not done the best. And we've certainly seen some shifts in recent weeks and months when it comes to Clemson and them offering, the same benefits that you get for donating to IPTAY that you get for donating to the NIL, the 110 Society now. So that's probably going to increase some funds for the 110 Society, increase some NIL opportunities. And then you got the rev sharing and hopefully some parameters that come to NIL with the rev sharing that have been agreed upon, with the House settlement and all that stuff. So we'll see how it shakes out, but that's been I think more so the issue with Clemson and kind of landing portal people. And, Dabo's still going to be super selective when it comes to the portal. He's going to use the portal, but he's still going to be very selective. It's still going to have to be a culture fit, and everything's going to have to match up from that standpoint, as well as the money and them choosing Clemson as well. So, which is what was the problem last year when we went after those 4 offensive linemen, and we didn't necessarily have the right NIL packages, and we were maybe slow playing some stuff that we weren't quite prepared for the pace that the transfer portal market moves at versus the high school recruiting market.
Yep, 100%. They've certainly adjusted their strategy this
clearly. Clearly have adjusted their strategy. So,
all right, I'll let this be the last one. I just had it from Frank. He says, "Win or lose, I'm excited for the." Oh my gosh! So, well, honestly, that's a good one to highlight too. Wet Sox, 47 people in here, only 30 likes. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, you tell them Wet Sox, hey, get on them. Tell them to do their job. We're out here trying to bring you the best content we possibly can. This is the 100th episode of the All In Show, and we out here with 37 likes. Come on, people.
Yep.
Get that like button up.
Run it up.
As close to 44 as you can get it. It's greatly appreciated. Yeah. Shout out Wet Sox.
Love that name. I'll never get over it. Frank says, win or lose, I'm excited for the future. Dabo using the portal brought hope back. Thank you guys for all the news and info. My number one source for Tiger news. Well, wow. That means a lot, man.
Thank you, sir.
We greatly appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons to still feel good about, the direction of the program in certain aspects, especially, with Dabo, getting with the times and in terms of, talent acquisition. And, we obviously we are on here have valued Dabo and his stance on, his emphasis on maintaining the culture and what makes Clemson special. I think all of that is extremely important and is the reason why he's won 2 national championships. But you have to be able to adjust in the modern era. And, I think adjusting his portal strategy and while still maintaining his core principles was always possible. And I think, the way he's gone about it this cycle has definitely been really promising as far as, how this roster is going to be maintained in the future. So, just really exciting. And if ULAN will help, there'll definitely be a lot of buzz and excitement. He's I think the number 3 edge in the portal right now, like a true potential difference maker for you. So that'd be the next step. And I think you did a good job with him on his visit. We'll see what he ultimately decides to do, but they made a really strong case. So it's all we can hope for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. I think we're just hitting the 3-hour mark. So I think this is a good place to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, we still got 37 people in the live chat right now, Jordan.
You guys are sickos. It's 11 o'clock.
Absolutely amazing. 11 o'clock at night. These bunch of degenerates are still in here chopping it up about college football, about Clemson versus Texas, heading down to Austin. These people are amazing. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. 100th episode of the All In Show. All the thanks goes out to you guys for supporting what me and Jordan do here. It's humbling to see you guys show up each and every week. To all of our people that are regulars, to all of our new viewers, thank you all so much. Hit that like button while you're in here. Consider subscribing. This show will not end regardless of whether Clemson loses or wins this coming Saturday. We will be here year-round to bring you all things Clemson football, all things college football. We look forward to having another great offseason and then getting into our 4th year of doing this show. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate your support. Jordan, you can go ahead and send the people off.
Yeah, just echo everything he just said. I mean, it's been really, really awesome just these last 3 seasons. And we're not going anywhere. So y'all make sure to continue to share, and keep showing up, hit that like button. and share these videos and these lives with other Clemson fans, other college football fans. Because like I said, we're still continuing to grow this channel, grow the All In Show. And you guys have been an integral part of it. And so we can't thank you guys enough. And we will be here on Saturday after the football game to break it all down. And let's hope it's a positive result.
But absolutely,
we'll be here regardless.
We will see you this coming Saturday, immediately following the Clemson game, roughly 7:30, 8 p.m. Whenever that game ends, we'll be right here on the Clemson channel to break it down for you and give our immediate thoughts on what we saw from our Clemson Tigers versus the Texas Longhorns. Until then, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.